Hi, welcome back guys. This is your friend, the fanfiction guy. Back with another fanfiction. This is the first part of What If Deku Had the Forest Spirit Quirk? Now before starting, please give this video a like and subscribe to the channel if you want more videos like this. Now let's get into the fanfic. It had been a quiet night for the underground hero. There had been a few attempted muggings and attacks, but with no major cases or villains on the loose, there wasn't much for him to do. He sat on a roof's edge casually, listening and looking for anything to do, but then he felt someone behind him. As a hero, he had pretty good instincts when it came to his surroundings, so he knew when someone was near. Aizawa waited a moment before flipping around with his quirk activated and capture weapon at the ready. Except no one was behind him. The only thing behind him was a small black and white kitten that now looked scared. He looked at the rest of the roof, and when he didn't see or hear anyone, he calmed down. Crouching to the ground, he offered an open hand, trying to calm down the kitten. He felt a little bad now since it was only a small animal, but he was certain someone had been there. He clicked at the cat a little to get its full attention. It stared at his hand before looking to him. "Didn't mean to scare you." It very carefully inched forward, still looking between his hand and his face. "I'm not gonna hurt you." As it got closer, Aizawa was able to see it more clearly. Its fur was white with a little dirt and grime, though the coat looked fluffy and long. On top of its head was what looked like two black horns, stemming from the top before curling back and ending in sharp-looking points. Its tail looked almost coiled together, ending in an almost feather-like design. He wasn't all that surprised to see an animal with a mutation. He worked for a chimera that was the smartest mammal on Earth. A kitten with horns and a strange tail wasn't that out of the ordinary. The kitten finally got close enough to sniff at his hand. It didn't take long for the kitten to start rubbing against his hand and purring. He was right that the cat's fur was rather soft, though he was sure it would be better if the cat was able to get a bath. "You're a little small, aren't you?" Feeling the cat as he pet it, it felt like mostly fur and bones, barely any meat on its bones. "Here." He reached into his pockets and felt around. Normally he had cat treats, but Hizashi had been yelling at him for giving too many treats, but he did have a little jerky on him. "Want some?" The kitten sniffed at it before carefully chomping down on part of it and dragging it away slightly and eating it. Aizawa wished he had more for the kitten since it seemed hungry, but there wasn't much he could do at the moment. He figured he'd carry more on him from now on in case he saw any other hungry cats. The peacefulness was ruined, though, when he heard a shout. He looked to the kitten, and it was looking in the same direction as the shout. It slowly crawled to the edge of the roof and looked down before looking back at Aizawa. He went to the edge and looked down, seeing a woman and their kid surrounded by 3 adults, all holding some kind of weapon or using their quirk. With a sigh, he activated his own quirk and jumped down. The fight didn't last long, but Aizawa was surprised when the woman and child didn't make a noise. Looking to them, he saw that the kitten was sitting with them and distracting the 5-year-old. "Thank you so much, sir. I already called the police." "Good, is this your cat?" The woman looked down at the white kitten and shook her head. "No, sorry." He nodded and was about to pick up the cat, but when he leaned down, the kitten jumped and ran away. "Huh." The kid seemed a little upset, but the woman was quick to distract him. "The cops should be here soon. Would you like me to stay?" "Why, yes, please." Aizawa was surprised to see the kitten a week after. It looked a little dirtier than before, but that didn't stop the hero from offering more jerky to the small animal. It accepted it like last time, dragging it away and slowly munching on it. He kept an ear out for any noise, but it was once again a quiet night. He had been getting those more and more recently, and it was setting off alarms in his head. "I keep getting quiet nights. It's a little weird." The kitten looked up at him and tilted its head. "Something feels off. There shouldn't be so little criminals out and about." The kitten seemed to look around before nodding its head at him and going back to the jerky. Aizawa paused. He had assumed the animal had a quirk because of the horns, but he didn't think it could understand him. "Can you understand me?" The cat froze and slowly looked up at him, beginning to back up. "Whoa, hey, it's okay. I'm not gonna hurt you." It stopped backing away, but it didn't calm down. "My boss is an animal with a quirk too. It's okay." That seemed to calm it down. It went back to the jerky but kept looking at Aizawa every now and again. "Nedzu," the principal hummed. "How often does an animal get some kind of intelligence quirk and a mutation?" "Well, isn't that an interesting question?" Netsu put down the papers he had been reading. Mutations have been occurring more often over the years due to quirks, but an intelligence quirk is very, very rare. Aizawa hummed. So the kitten was a rare animal. May I know why you're asking? I keep running into this white kitten on patrol. It has black horns that go back against its head, and I thought that was it, but the other night it seemed to understand me, and when I asked it freaked out a little. Interesting. I suggest talking to the animal more. It might be more than just an intelligent kitten. Aizawa didn't like the way Netsu worded it, but he agreed. If he saw it on patrol again, he would try to talk to it more. He went into the teacher's lounge and was immediately approached by his husband. So, what did the good principal say? Aizawa sighed and sat down in his chair. An animal with a mutation isn't rare, but one with an intelligence quirk is apparently very rare. He suggested I try to talk to the kitten more. Are we getting a new cat? I bet BSRD would love a little kitten running around. The last cat we got was Mangy and they hate each other. That's because Mangy is an orange cat who refuses to die and BSRD wants him dead. Aizawa rolled his eyes, but he had to agree. The black cat hated Mangy. If it has an intelligence quirk, it probably doesn't trust humans. Too many people attack animals with quirks as is. But you've been feeding it, right? Aizawa glared at Yamada. Exactly. Fine, I'll try to make friends with the smart cat. The next time Aizawa ran into the cat, Yamada had made him carry around a little snack for it. Aizawa had tried to convince him to just let him take cat treats and dry food, but the other hero pointed out that if it had an intelligence quirk it might not want cat food, and he couldn't argue with that. The kitten had found him on the same roof and laid next to him. What they usually did was Aizawa would give the cat a little snack and then talk about anything annoying. The kitten would meow or nod along. He didn't tell the cat anything that could be considered important or anything, just complaining about his co-workers or the students he hadn't expelled yet. My husband wanted me to give you this. He pulled out a small box. It mostly had fish, but there was some other meats and even some vegetables just in case the cat did want them. Figure you could use some more food. The kitten jumped a little like it was surprised before looking at the box and sniffing it. It kept looking to Aizawa like it was scared he would change his mind. It's okay, I have my own food. He pulled out his own lunch that Yamada had prepared, once again arguing that he needed more actual food, and if he was going to feed a cat then he would feed his husband too. It looked at the food one more time before taking a small step back. Aizawa was about to say something when suddenly its body began to change. Its tail got slightly longer while its face changed. Instead of a small kitten, a now white fluffy puppy sat there. Aizawa didn't know dog breeds, but it looked like a small wolf. It looked to him for a moment, seeming to wait for his reaction, but the hero only nodded and went to his own food. After a moment the wolf pup began to eat the small meal. It ate all of it, even the little rice Yamada had added just to make it look nice. Aizawa slammed the front door open, making Yamada jump, who stared at him for a moment. It turned into a wolf pup. What? The cat turned into a wolf pup. The two stared at each other for a moment. Weird. Yes, it's weird. Yamada just shrugged a little. Maybe it has something to do with its mutation? I don't think a mutation makes an animal change what kind of animal it is. Aizawa sat next to his husband, that I think it might be a child. Why? Hizashi, he grabbed the man by his shoulders, a small animal that shows intelligence, eats human food no questions asked, and changed its form. I don't think animals can do that. Maybe talk to Netsu again, he knows more about animals with quirks than we would. Fine, but I'm pretty sure it's some homeless kid. What seems to be the problem today, Aizawa? I think the kitten is a homeless kid. The mammal didn't seem surprised by that. And why is that? First off, it showed intelligence like I told you, and that kind of quirk in an animal is rare. Then when I feed it the other day it changed form, right in front of me, into a wolf pup, and it stared at me like it was waiting for my reaction. Then I would have to agree with you. If you would like, I can ask around and look into possible children with quirks like that. But if they're homeless, they might not be registered. You could always ask. I don't want to scare them if they are a kid though. They could be hiding from someone or a runaway case. You'll never know if you don't look into Aizawa. The principal took a sip of his tea. Perhaps you could be the one to help the child. They might need help. Are you guilt-tripping me? Of course not. Haha. Aizawa rolled his eyes and left the office, coming up with a plan. Aizawa felt like he was making progress when it came to the animal, that was probably a kid, that followed him around sometimes. He still gave them snacks and food which seemed to help their relationship, even talking to them seemed to help gain their trust. Instead of just the cat, they would turn into a wolf, a fox, and even a rabbit at one point. He hoped that meant that the possible kid was trusting him enough and would one day reveal himself. He had tried to look into the quirk registry, looking for someone with a quirk that let them turn into animals with a possible fixed tail and horn mutation, adding or taking away looks or details about the quirk, but nothing came up. Even talking to the police and other underground heroes brought nothing. "How has your search gone, Aizawa?" Netsu asked one day as he came into the teacher's lounge. "Haven't found anything, but they seem to trust me more." He leaned back in the chair with a sigh, turned into a wolf again, then a fox at one point, even a bunny. "I think the horns and tail are kind of a fixed mutation, but they change size with whatever animal they are." "Interesting. But you haven't found anyone with a quirk matching the description?" "Nope, nothing, not even other heroes or police have heard of something like this." "Have you checked those considered dead?" Aizawa turned to Netsu confused. "If it is a child and they're homeless, there's the possibility of them being considered dead. I would check there as well." "Thanks." "Of course, Aizawa. I do hope you befriend this creature. I feel like they would be a delight to have around." "Whatcha doin', Dad?" Aizawa turned to see Hitoshi resting on the back of the couch. "Remember that animal I told you was following me? With the horns and weird tail?" Aizawa nodded. "Yeah, is it about them?" "I'm pretty sure it's a kid with a shape-shifting quirk. I tried the active registry, even asked some other pros and police, but no one had seen or heard of anything like that. Then Netsu suggested I check the dead registry because if it is a kid and they went missing, after a while they would be marked dead." "Yikes, find anything?" He patted the spot next to him and waited for Hitoshi to sit next to him. "I think." He turned the screen. There was a picture of a baby with black horns, white hair, and bright green eyes. Midoriya Izuku, quirk, Najitsun, gives the user horns .3 tails. He had only remembered seeing the one, and allows them to turn into and talk to other animals. Reported missing when he was just 4 years old and considered dead when he was, Jesus. They considered him dead after only a week of searching? Hitoshi asked, looking a little sick as he read the screen. That doesn't add up. Most parents won't even think about it till after a year of the kid missing. He wrote down the names of the parents. "I'm asking Tsukachi about this. If it is this Midoriya Izuku, are you gonna help him?" Aizawa looked a little surprised at Hitoshi. "I mean, he's probably homeless, right? So we gotta help him." "You're a good kid." He kissed the top of Hitoshi's head, "and yes, we'll help him." "Eraser, just the man I was looking for." Aizawa paused at the door. He hadn't expected that. "I looked into that thing you asked about and I have a case that might match it." "I actually came to ask about something similar." Tsukachi paused, letting the hero continue. "I looked into the dead registry and found someone who matched the description, reported missing when he was 4 and after a week the parents gave up and reported him dead." "Sheet, what were their names?" "Midoriya Hisashi and Midoriya Inko." The detective typed the names in anything. "We have their missing son Izuku, who seems a little less dead and missing than they thought, and a few wellness checks. Looks like some neighbors were worried and had asked someone to check on the family, but they didn't find anything. Or they just weren't looking." Midoriya Hisashi was a police officer, and with Inko being his wife, she was treated just as nicely. So any reports from their local police could be biased and their neighbors would have been treated like they were crazy. Tsukachi sighed. "I'll open a case but keep it inactive right now. Since we don't technically have proof that the animal following you is him, then there wouldn't be an actual point." He wrote down a few more things before handing a folder to Aizawa. "This is what I wanted to bring up. I found a bunch of reports of a supposed spirit living in the forest, the one with the old abandoned buildings. Apparently when hikers or explorers get lost or hurt, a spirit finds them, heals them, and then guides them back to the paths. Could be the kid. Could be. If it's not, I could use you checking it out anyway." "Right, thanks Tsukachi." "No problem, just keep me updated." "So you think the animal following you is actually a kid named Midoriya Izuku, who went missing and was considered dead when he was 4 and is also the supposed spirit of the forest?" Tsukachi's been getting reports about. Hisashi summed up while they ate dinner. That's kinda cool, Hitoshi commented. He's like an urban legend. His quirk name would match with it, but it's just such a weird name. He picked at his food for a moment. I did some research on what a Najutsun is. It's the dark equivalent of a kitsune, thought to be evil, bring bad luck, stuff like that. Why would a kid call their quirk that? I don't think it was the kid, Aizawa sighed. We did some research on the parents. From what we could find, they seemed superstitious and had a lot of beliefs. You would think they would call the quirk kitsune or something, but they chose the evil version of a spirit. So they thought he had an evil quirk. They both looked to Hitoshi a little sadly. We are gonna help him, right? Of course. Hisashi assured, we would never abandon a kid like that. Cool, so I get a brother, right? Aizawa groaned, but they all knew he was just messing with them. Oh, we should turn the forest investigation into a camping trip. A little family outing for us. You hate camping. Let me have my fun show Yuta. Aizawa guesses that's how they ended up in the forest with a few bags, a tent, and Hisashi's weird dream to camp even though he doesn't like bugs or the outdoors. A lot of people assumed Aizawa didn't like it either since it involved leaving the house, but he actually really liked camping, just the outdoors and no one else, able to do whatever you want surrounded only by the wildlife. So once you have it done, you put the posts here and put them in the ground. Usually people hammer them, but you can also just stomp them in. Aizawa was showing Hitoshi how to set up the tent while Hisashi was putting everything away. When we pack up, you sometimes have to dig them out a little, but it's pretty easy. Bug sprays in the car. Thank you. They both watched the blonde book it to the car, hiding in there for a moment. Why did Pops want to come if he was just gonna hide from the bugs? Not a clue, Hitoshi. Once they had gotten everything set up and put away, they decided to split up, though it was Hisashi going by himself while Aizawa showed Hitoshi more camping things. And you're sure you're okay going by yourself? Yes. It'll be totally fine, Sho. I'll just take a quick look around and use the map. We are supposed to be looking for a supposed spirit anyway. Fine, but keep your phone on you. Good luck, Pops. Hisashi waved goodbye as he headed further into the forest. They had places on the map marked where people had encountered the creature. It seemed like it hung closer to the old buildings in the forest or areas that would be considered dangerous. If they really were helping protect hikers, then it made sense. He must have lost track of the time since the area around him was now practically pitch black. He was a little nervous since he could no longer tell where he was, but he still had his phone on him. Hey Sho. You're lost, aren't you? How'd you get lost? Hisashi groaned. Neither of them would ever let this go. I don't know. You still have the map? Yeah, and I can use my phone as a flashlight. It should be dash. He paused, hearing leaves around him rustle. Hold on, I think I heard something. Ignore it, Hisashi. It's probably your mind playing tricks since it's dark out. The noise was getting louder and closer. He used his phone and was even able to see some of them move. Don't think so, Sho. I'll call you back. Don't dash. Hisashi hung up and looked around. Hello? Is someone there? The leaves seemed to rustle more before a small animal jumped out of the bushes, making him jump. Whoa. He shined the light at it and calmed down once he realized it was just a white rabbit. Well, hello there. He crouched down and offered a hand. The rabbit hopped closer. Aren't you friendly? Looking it over, he could see small black horns and a strange tail. Wait, you're the animal Sho keeps talking about. The creature looked into his eyes for a moment. If the white fur, horns, and tail weren't already a giveaway, then the green eyes would have been. It felt like the little thing was staring into his soul, trying to understand him. Then it stopped and looked down an area, beginning to hop away. Oh well, bye. Hisashi turned his flashlight to the map. Now where dash? He paused when he felt a thump on his foot. Looking down, the rabbit was back and had stomped his foot. What is it? It began hopping the same way, pausing to look back at him. You want me to follow you? Then he remembered the stories of hikers and campers being guided back to their paths. Oh. Yep, I will follow you. It was a little hard keeping up with the rabbit since it was a lot faster than him in the forest, but it made sure to stop and check that he was still following. Once they got close enough, Hisashi was able to see the fire that Aizawa had likely started. Well, thank you, little rabbit. It hopped once and turned away. You don't want to stay? It stared at him again before looking to the fire, likely considering it before turning away. All right then, stay safe little rabbit. Who are you talking to? Hitoshi shouted, likely able to see and hear Hisashi now. I was talking to Sho's little animal friend. He made it to the fire and sat down, turning his phone light off and handing the map to Aizawa. Definitely a person. Then tomorrow night we can split up and look around while Hitoshi sleeps. What? I wanna go. Not happening, kid, it's dangerous out there. So we can let Pops go unsupervised? He literally got lost. He's also an adult, you're 11. Hitoshi crossed his arms. That's stupid. Aha, sure kid, eat your food and go to bed. Hitoshi thought it was stupid of them to leave him at the campsite alone. He wasn't in danger or anything, but he was bored, and as Yamada had reminded them multiple times, a bored Hitoshi was a dangerous one. Finally getting tired of looking at the dying fire, he threw in a few more logs before grabbing a flashlight. If the spirit was actually another kid, then he didn't see a problem trying to befriend it. After all, they both had quirks considered evil or villainous. They wanted to help the kid too. There was no reason Hitoshi couldn't also look for him. He was only a little ways from the campsite when he heard it. Looking up in the trees, he saw the light reflect off of the animal's eyes. Its body hung loosely on the branch above him. It looked like a giant white snake with horns and a coiled tail. The two stared at each other for a moment before Hitoshi lifted his hand. Hi there, you're the kid that keeps following Dad on patrol, right? The snake's eyes seemed to widen before it moved, slowly slithering down the tree before it changed. It was hard to describe, but the movement seemed natural, turning from a large snake into a child. From what Hitoshi could tell, they were likely around the same age, the other being slightly shorter and looking a little malnourished. The kid had snow-white hair shoved under a black, slightly torn beanie. Most of his face was covered by a medical mask that had seen better days. He wore baggy, tattered clothes but no shoes. Looking him up and down, Hitoshi noted that his feet looked like they had claws, while his fingernails looked longer and sharper than a normal person's. He assumed the horns and tail were hidden in the beanie and clothes, though he didn't understand why. Why you shouldn't be out here. It didn't sound like a threat. The voice was too rough and quiet to sound anything more than worried. Could you get hurt? Hitoshi assumed the other sounded weird due to disuse, likely never talking to another person until now. You're also out here. Hitoshi pointed the light, making the other jump a bit and move out of the beam. What are you doing? He turned the flashlight off, able to see the other's reflective eyes still. And not supposed to see me. He thought that was weird, but if the other had come from an abusive household and was abandoned, it made sense. Go back to .to campsite, safer. I don't know, I feel pretty safe right now. He shrugged a little. You're the person that keeps helping all those hikers and stuff, right? So why should I be worried about getting hurt? The other let out a slight whimper sound, something moving below their shirt before the tail finally showed itself. It was longer than the kid's leg. It was all black except for the end of the tail. It looked like two tails wrapped around a larger one, the bigger one likely creating the end that looked almost like feathers or a fish tail. Do you have 3 tails? It's fine if you do. I'm not gonna judge you. He turned the light on again but kept it facing the ground. That's why you showed yourself, right? There was weird growl-like noise before the kid changed into a fox. Hitoshi had to admit all of the animals were cool, but he still found it strange that the other didn't just stay in human form. The fox trotted into the light before lifting the tail. It slowly unwound from itself, revealing a long black tail with a white feathery end and 2 slightly smaller barbed tails with sharp points. They stepped out of the light and changed back to human. Whoa, cool tails. He heard the other shuffle. Well, I'm gonna explore the forest more. No. Claws lightly dug into his shirt, not enough to pierce. Luckily, dangerous, remember? It'll be fine. He began walking deeper into the trees, hearing a slight rustling sound before a white deer was next to him. Are you following me? The deer nodded cool. Hitoshi noticed that while the horns had stayed the same, the tails had gotten smaller, looking very similar to an actual deer's tail. So can you change the size of your tails at will? Or is it like an adapt thing? He watched as the tails suddenly got larger and longer, dragging on the ground for a moment before they went small. That's pretty sick. What about the horns? The deer shook its head. They still look cool. can you change your size? Hitoshi's eyes widened as the deer next to him suddenly got larger, definitely bigger than any normal deer. Hitoshi! Both of them jumped when a light suddenly hit them. What are you doing out here? We told you to stay at the site. I was Dash. He turned and saw that the other had run away at some point. Good job, you scared them. Who? Aizawa asked, looking around them. The guy, the one that keeps following you? I saw who it was, definitely Midoriya Izuku. Aizawa felt a little jealous. The kid had been following him on patrol, so why was he only showing his human form to Hitoshi and guiding Hisashi back to the campsite? Dad, you can't seriously be jealous. I'm not. Honey, you're literally pouting. No, I'm not. Sure, why don't you go for a small hike? Maybe you'll run into the little guy. Aizawa grunted. It wasn't a bad idea. After all, today was their last day to investigate. Fine. He stood up and grabbed a few things before silently going down one of the paths. It was one they hadn't gone down yet since it rarely had any sightings of the kid, so they didn't see a point if he was more likely to be somewhere else. The path led to where the old town was. It had been abandoned long before Aizawa was in school. From what he read, the place had been a crime hotspot for a while before a hero came in and destroyed the place, leaving the old city to the wilderness, even having a wildlife hero come in and grow more trees to cover everything up. The place had interest Aizawa as soon as he had read about it in his second year, Nedzu even using it during class as an example of hero cover-up. He had wanted to know why it needed to be covered up, but since the place was difficult to find, no one had the energy to try and find out. Maybe for a school trip sometime he could convince Nedzu and the other teachers to go here. The rest of his thoughts were cut off though as growling came from behind him. He turned around and came face to face with a wolf, which surprised him. He hadn't heard any reports of wild animals in the area. He also didn't know how to deal with a wolf. It wasn't something in training, and as much as he liked camping and going outside, he had never had to deal with a predator. Taking a step back though seemed to be a mistake as the growling grew louder and it stalked closer to him. Looking around revealed nothing though. He wasn't dumb enough to think he could outrun the wolf, but he also knew if he could get around it, it could let him get an opening and possibly injure the animal enough to run away from it. Aizawa didn't get to try though as it lunged forward. Ducking away from the animal made him trip up and slip on a rock. Falling to the ground, he felt his ankle twist before his head crashed against dirt. If I die to a wolf in the woods, he sat up slowly, trying to get his vision to stop spinning, I'll never hear the end of it. Blinking a few times, he was finally able to see clearly, and the wolf somehow looked more set off. It howled before trying to run at him. He grabbed his emergency knife and held it at the ready, but he didn't need it. A large white and black tiger leaped out of the forest and tackled the wolf to the ground. The two animals biting and scratching each other before the tiger got a hold of the wolf and bit down hard. He heard the wolf howl in pain before it was tossed away. The wolf slowly got up and growled at the tiger, who began to pace in front of Aizawa. It roared back, making the wolf whimper before running away, likely to treat its own wounds. Aizawa knew right away he wasn't in trouble, the horns and tail making it clear who the tiger was. He also likes to think that Tsukachi would have warned him of a tiger in the forest. The tiger looked at him for a moment before changing into the kid Hitoshi had described, except in the light Aizawa could see scars littering the kid's body. The new bloody teeth and claw marks didn't make the picture look any better. Hurt. The kid slowly crawled to him, looking at his slightly swollen ankle. Stay here. He wanted to grab the kid and stop them from running, but he was too slow, likely having a small concussion. After a moment, the kid came back with a handful of things that Aizawa wasn't sure he was going to do with. What are you doing? He tried to sit up more, but they stopped him. Hit you at your head. Aizawa nodded a little. Didn't move much. The kid showed the random things. Fix foot. He set the pile down and dug out a few things before taking of Aizawa's shoe and moving his pant leg. The hero didn't know what to expect, but he definitely didn't expect what the kid was doing. He had made an almost perfect splint and brace and was wrapping it around Aizawa's leg, even using some leaves and grass to create cushioning so the wood wouldn't rub against. Then they turned to Aizawa and looked into his eyes for a moment before feeling his head. There was a slight bump, but not much else, and luckily no bleeding. Wolves don't like me much. Aizawa could see why. The kid kicked the wolf's butt. That's all right, you saved me, he patted the kid's head, causing them to duck slightly and make a strange noise. Do you know who I am? Weiss. They then dipped their head, a little like a bow. Sorry for following you. Hey, I'm not upset about it, just wanted to know why you were following me. Animals talked and said you're nice, I like heroes. That news shocked Aizawa a bit. He didn't know animals talked about him. Be better, should go back. What about you? He pointed to the still bleeding wounds. Those don't look too good. You need to get those treated, possibly stitched. The kid shook his head violently. No. Don't like hospitals. People are there. Me and my family are people, but you interacted with us. Different. He stood and helped Aizawa off the ground, the hero testing the foot and surprised to feel no pain other than a dull ache. I here? Didn't come here before. My husband suggested I take a walk to relax. He looked down at the wrapped foot, see where that got me, but I was interested in the abandoned city here. Do you know anything about that? The kid nodded. Lots of overgrowth, larger animals avoid it, but the smaller ones like it, lots of hiding spots. Are you hiding? Aizawa crouched down a little to get eye level with them. Is that why you're in the forest? The kid made a few weird noises, but once he realized Aizawa didn't understand, he hummed like he was trying to find the words. No and yes. So you're hiding but you're not? The kid nodded slowly. Okay, is there a reason you chose the forest? Put here by Dash. He made a growl-like sound as his foot clawed the floor. Stayed. Do you want to leave? Why? Because it's not safe for a kid to be out here by themselves. You should have someone watching over you. Animals watch sometimes. The kid looked down at his wounds. Need water to get clean. They turned and began slowly walking further into the forest, Aizawa trailing behind him. He had to wonder if the kid minded him following them. It wasn't like the kid couldn't just turn into an animal and run away. He could probably run faster than Aizawa as a human too. But the kid was walking slowly, looking behind him every now and again to make sure the hero was still there. Do you have a name? Hitoshi was right in that the kid fit the description for Midoriya Izuku, but if they had a different name he would use it. Aizuku, I think. My name's Aizawa Shoyuda, you can call me Shoyuda if you'd like. They nodded a little before pausing. Here. He moved some of the foliage to reveal a large river. Aizawa was about to argue against using it, but the kid tugged on his sleeve a bit before walking further down the river before going uphill. On the hill there was grass surrounding them, but Aizawa didn't see anything else until Izuku reached down and lifted the grass, which turned out to be a bunch of sticks tied together covered in dirt and grass. The kid looked to him before propping the door up and walking inside. Aizawa followed hesitantly but gasped at what he saw. The entire thing was a large hole in the ground. It had a low ceiling, but its walls were wide and dug into. In the corner there was a nest made of old dirty cloths, leaves, and even some moss. Above it a part of the wall had been dug out and wood lined it, letting the books that sat there not get dirty. Then there was a large hole with burned wood and ashes at the bottom. It had been recently lit considering it was still smoking, but there was a small hole above it that let air filter in and out, the old fire giving the place a nice warm temperature. Water. The kid held out a plastic water bottle. He took it and stared at it for a moment. Filtered, is clean. Aizawa was going to trust the kid. If he got sick it wouldn't be a big deal anyway. Izuku disappeared around one of the corners before coming back with a metal bucket full of water. He looked to Aizawa before shifting into an otter and jumping into the water. He backed up a little to avoid getting plashed by the small animal, but he was curious. The water became a reddish-brown as all the blood and grim came off. They jumped out of the water and shook their body off before turning back into a human. Aizawa wondered how the clothes and mask translated to animal since they were now also wet. He wondered what would happen if the kid wasn't wearing a mask. Would it affect how the animal form look? Maybe he could find out if the kid stuck around. Do you have bandages or anything? Some of those cuts are deep and need to be cleaned more. They're still bleeding. Izuku looked at the wounds before pulling his mask down. Aizawa was a little surprised to see more scars, but the scars that were obviously from a muzzle didn't surprise him. The kid opened his mouth wide and Aizawa watched in fascination as some of his teeth changed, becoming fang-like with a liquid dripping down them. They brought their arm up to their mouth and bit down, letting some of the liquid and blood drip down before letting go. Why did you? The hero trailed off as the wounds suddenly stopped bleeding, the blood looking strange as it congealed. Venom, the kid brought his mask back up, helps blood loss in small doses, but dangerous. Yeah, most people don't use snake venom for medicine like that. The kid blushed a little and tilted his head down. Smart though, how'd you find out? I like reading. He pointed to the books, lots of animals and quirks. Aizawa nodded a little, curious about what else the kid knew. You should still wrap those though. Made some. Izuku lifted his hands to show a web-like collection hanging from his fingertips. Webs have unnatural antiseptic, good for not getting infected. Aizawa was never going to tell Hisashi that the kid could apparently also make webs, probably able to turn into insects as well, because then Hisashi might hate the kid and he wouldn't be able to live with that. That's pretty smart, Izuku. Did you read about that too? Had to. Didn't want to steal, people need them more. At least the kid didn't want to be a thief, but Aizawa was sure anyone would look away if a little kid took a few bandages. It's good you're smart enough to take care of yourself, you're a fast learner too. He assumed Izuku was anyway, there was no way they would survive out here otherwise, animal quirk or not. The kid looked around before standing up, his clothes still damp from the water. Go back now? I should probably go before they get worried. Dio, you want to come with? I'm sure the others wouldn't mind. He offered his hand to the kid, but they shook their head. And no, that's supposed to stay away. Aizawa wanted to punch whoever told this kid to stay away from people. Okay, I can find my own way back. Stay safe, alright? You know where to find me. The kid nodded and walked out with Aizawa before turning into a small rabbit and hopping in the opposite direction. He watched the animal for a moment before sighing. Aizawa was going to help this kid if it was the last thing he did. Izuku wasn't sure what he was thinking when he decided to interact with the family more. They all seemed like nice people and had apparently gone there to look for Izuku specifically. No one had ever looked for him. They had decided to follow Aizawa again. The man had said he wasn't mad and didn't mind that Izuku followed him, plus he fed them. Shifting to Hawk, he flew through the city before spotting Aizawa in an alley. He shifted to Raccoon and got closer. He didn't want to interrupt what Aizawa was doing since it looked like the hero was currently fighting. They would only step in if he needed help. After the hero secured the people to a post, Izuku turned into a golden flying fox bat. Normally he would just be a fruit bat, but he wanted the hero to know right away it was him. Aizawa had finished tying the criminals up when he heard a slight whoosh behind him. Turning, he saw what looked like a giant white bat holding onto the wall. Whoa, he took a small step back before sighing. Sorry kid, you scared me. They made a screech sound and dipped their head. It's alright, I just didn't know bats could get that big. What the F is that thing? One of the criminals shouted. The bat climbed up the wall a little while Aizawa glared. Shut up. He turned back to the animal and offered his hand. It's alright. The bat slowly climbed back down. It grabbed onto his arm and hung there for a moment before slowly climbing to his back. Comfortable? Another screech sound was the only answer. Alright, just don't fly away when the cops get here. He could feel the creature's claws dig into his shirt, not touching his skin though. When the cops did arrive, he felt them stiffen and change. While the claws weren't gone, the boy felt a lot smaller. He turned his head to see a tiny bat with big ears. The thing looked like it would fit in his hand and have room for more. Aizawa would murder for this kid just based off of how cute some of the animal they could turn into were. I'll just need the usual report eraser. Tsukachi was writing something down in his notepad before he looked up and squinted at Aizawa's shoulder. Is that a bat? It's the spirit in the forest you keep getting reports about. Aizawa reached into his belt and pulled out a small piece of jerky before handing it to the bat. The piece was almost as big as the little animal. Their name's Izuku. The detective nodded a little slowly. Well, hello Izuku. The bat let out a small screech, somehow looking surprised Tsukachi was talking to him. Keep Eraser here out of trouble, alright? You two have a good night. Aizawa rolled his eyes, making sure the kid was secure before using his capture weapon and lifting them to the roof. Once they were on the roof, Izuku jumped off and turned into his human form, a hand gripping his sleeve. Trouble? Aizawa patted the kid's head, once again making them duck and make a strange noise. Tsukachi was only teasing, no one's in trouble. Izuku nodded once. I'm surprised you're here though, figured you'd avoid me for a while. Why? Well, you showed yourself to me and my family, figured we scared you off since you don't like people. Izuku tugged on his sleeve a little. Nice. They crouched down a little and clawed at the ground. Didn't see why I should leave. Aizawa hummed and looked around. Why don't we get some food? You're probably hungry. He turned to the edge of the roof ready to jump. You coming, kid? Enshin. The kid shifted into a small bird, chirping before flapping his wings, ready to follow Aizawa. They traveled for a few minutes before Aizawa stopped in front of a small cafe. You want to go in? Izuku shook his head. All right, I'll pick something out for us then. The bird shifted into a raccoon and sat near the edge of the sidewalk, watching the hero go in the order food. The hero came back out with 2 bottles of water and 2 muffins. He handed one to the raccoon who changed back to the kid. They stayed crouching and pulled their mask down, slowly chewing on the muffin while Aizawa tried not to laugh. The kid looked adorable crouched down over the muffin. Have those wounds healed yet? A little. The kid pulled up his sleeve, showing the spiderweb bandages and even a few more new injuries. Wolf came back. Had to take care of it. Aizawa was about to comfort the kid, but when his hand got to close they growled, sorry. It's all right, my cats do the same. He thought about apologizing for comparing Izuku to the cats, but the younger didn't seem to mind, simply nodding along like it made sense. Once they were both done eating, Aizawa looked at the time and sighed. He wasn't sure where he stood with the kid honestly. Most of the time they were clinging to him, but other times they seemed scared. Hey kid, he crouched down so they were eye level. He didn't want the kid to growl again. I gotta head home. Do you want to come with? They seemed to think about it before shaking their head. Not supposed to go inside. Aizawa glared a little with a sigh. Izuku seemed to know he wasn't angry at him though. I want you to know that if someone offers to take you inside, you're allowed to go in. You don't have to, but you can, alright? He patted the kid's head. No growl this time, but I gotta head home, so remember that for next time. Okay. He gave the kid one more nod before leaving. Looking back, Izuku had turned into a squirrel and ran into one of the alleys. Good news, kid still follows me around. Bad news, he's not allowed inside, so I couldn't convince him to come back with me. Dad, isn't that kinda like kidnapping? No, kidnapping would be if I took him when he said no. Hitoshi rolled his eyes and went back to his food. That's progress though, right, Sho? He's showing himself more and actually talking. Aizawa hummed, okay, what is it? The way they talk, they're clearly smart since they've survived for so long and found alternatives to things they can't get, but it's like they can't find the words. He sighed, I don't know, maybe if we can get them to live with us we could help with that. Maybe ask Netsu about it. Could be because of the environment he's been in. It seems like he rarely uses his human form, and if he can't talk when he's in animal form then it makes sense. Could also be because of the muzzle scars you saw. They both turned to Hitoshi, who wasn't meeting their eyes. They're trying to use the least amount of words possible. Sheet, I didn't even think about that. When Izuku got back to his burrow, he shifted to a dog and went to the fire pit, using his paws to dig out all the older ashes before throwing more wood in and lighting it. Once it was enough, they went to their nest and laid down, thinking back to what Aizawa had told them. He already thought the family was strange, but it just kept getting weirder. First they looked for him, then they didn't run away and seemed to even accept them, and then Aizawa had bought them food and feared to take him inside. Before they fell asleep, Izuku thought about seeing them again. It wouldn't be hard to track any of them down. Where do you think you're going? Hitoshi rolled his eyes. He assumed that the group had given up after Hizashi had gone crazy on their parents for allowing their kids to bully him. Home, why? He saw the hesitance to answer his question. That was a plus anyway, as it gave him the chance to grab his bag and walk past them. Hey, we're not done with you. He ignored them and kept walking. Once they were outside school gates though, one of them grabbed him and threw him into one of the nearby alleys. You think you can ignore us? How? Was I ignoring you? They all hesitated again, but the leader was clearly angry. Would you stop that sheet? Nope. That only seemed to piss the group off more as the leader reared their fist back ready to punch him. He closed his eyes, ready for the pain, but nothing came. Opening his eyes, he saw the group looking in terror above him. Turning his head, he saw a large python slowly lowering itself down the wall. He wasn't scared though, it was white with horns. Let's get out of here. The leader shoved Hitoshi against the wall again before they ran out of the alley in fear, most of them screaming about a snake demon. Hi Izuku. The snake went lower before it changed back to a human and landed on the ground. What are you doing here? Visiting. They looked at the alley entrance, stunned like bullies. Yeah, me either. He shouldered his bag and offered his hand to Izuku. The other stared at it for a moment before carefully grabbing it, being mindful of his claws. Dad said he ran into you last night. Gave me a muffin. He smiled a little before slowly dragging Izuku out of the alley. Oh, not supposed to be seen. It's fine, you're with me, right? They stared at him for a moment, nodding and walking a little slowly next to him. You can turn into an animal if you want. And note it draws attention. He nodding in understanding. 2 kids was less suspicious than a kid with an animal that had a mutation. Pops gave me some extra money this morning if you want to get food. He point further up the street. There's a vendor I usually go to, better than going inside since I think you need shoes for that. Izuku looked down at his feet with a shrug. Uncomfortable. I guess the claws would make it weird to have normal shoes on, you probably need custom ones or something. The other's face scrunched up as he let out a small growl. Or not, you just don't like shoes. Like the ground. Huh, respect. I think my feet would hurt too much. Izuku paused and lifted his foot. For a moment he thought their foot was just dirty, but then Hitoshi realized that their foot looked similar to a dog's. Is that natural? No, used to use it when in the city. That cement hurt sometimes. The bottom changed to look like a human's with little scars on the bottom. Forest is softer. I could see that, all the grass and moss and stuff. They finally made it to the vendor who waved at Hitoshi. Anything you want? Izuku only shrugged a little. Alright, can I get 2 takoyaki and strawberry milks? Sure thing. Once he paid and received their food, he handed one of each to Izuku, who stared at it for a moment before taking a bit. Have you never had this before? They shoot their head. It's pretty good. I usually get some after school. Try the milk. Also good. I did kinda wonder if you ate meat 'cause you can turn into animals. Talk to them too. Right, but you do eat meat? Izuku nodded. Do you not feel guilt about it? No, go hunting with some animals. They lost the fight. Hitoshi stared at him for a moment before shrugging. Fair enough. Hey Pops. Hisashi hummed, not looking away from the stove. So, that Izuku's kinda like a cryptid, right? Like the whole living in the forest, turning into animals, people calling him the spirit of the forest thing. Does that mean people have probably gone into the forest before us and tried to investigate it? I'm not actually sure. He thought for a moment before turning the stove off and moving the pan to the counter. When Tsukachi explained to us, it didn't sound like anyone had actually investigated before. Yeah, but he was probably only talking about cops and stuff. I mean, if people were saved by a mysterious white animal with horns and a strange tail, they would post about it, right? And someone would hear. Hisashi finally turned to look at Hitoshi. Hitoshi, what are you talking about? Did something happen? The 11-year-old looked down, rubbing the back of his neck. So, that the other day Izuku kinda showed up at my school? These guys they dragged me into some alley and then suddenly a giant snake was slithering down the wall and they ran, but I knew it was Izuku, so we kinda hung out for a while, but I guess one of those guys found out about the forest thing and here. Hitoshi handed over his phone to Hisashi, who stared at it for a moment. It showed someone's social media page with 2 pictures. One showed the alley Hitoshi was talking about with a large white snake that had horns. The other showed what looked like a horror photo of a creature with reflective eyes and the caption, "Forest spirit attacked us." Should we check it out? This isn't good. I know, I'm sorry I didn't tell you before, but dash. Whoa. Hisashi crouched down and grabbed Hitoshi's shoulder. This isn't your fault. Those boys should have left you alone and Izuku was just trying to help you. But you're going to tell Sho when he gets home. I'm gonna head to the woods, alright? Izuku climbed up one of the trees, checking on the little nest inside with careful hands. The mama bird had asked them to protect them for the day since she needed to travel somewhere and he could do that easily. The bird told him that the babies didn't need food, just a set of eyes on them. Once he was sure they were okay, he jumped out of the tree and checked the area around it. If they could see a possible predator before it got close, then they could scare it off. I think I heard something over here. Izuku looked down the path, listening closely as a group of footsteps ran towards them. He looked to the nest for a moment before collecting a few leaves and pieces of moss to hide it. They didn't know if it was hunters and they didn't want to risk the babies. He shifted to a small mouse and stayed hidden in the bushes, waiting for the people to walk by. Dude, we don't even know what we're looking for. Yes, we do. My dad's a police officer and he told me all about this weird creature that lives here. Matches with what we saw in the alley. Izuku shuffled a little to see who the people were and recognized them almost immediately as the group that had tried to hurt Hitoshi. He didn't know why they were here, but if they hurt Hitoshi then there was no doubt in his mind that they would hurt the animals. He thought about what would scare them off before just settling on a wolf. They slowly crawled out of the bushes with a low growl, letting their claws strike the ground as they approached the children. Whoa! What the F dash? The two lackeys looked ready to run, but the leader only smiled widely. So this is the supposed spirit? The guy lifted a rock. Not so tough. Izuku wasn't able to dodge the large rock as it hit his face. With a growl, he barked at them before starting to run. The two finally got the hint and started running away while the leader hesitated a little more. Not scared of some dog. Izuku pounced onto the child, using their claws and larger frame to pin them to the ground and roared in their face, "Itch help." Izuku only continued to growl before he felt fins hitting his body. Looking up, the kids had come back with rocks and sticks throwing or hitting him. He growled again and slowly got off the kid. As soon as he was up, the other ran to his friends and they all rushed out of the forest, leaving Izuku covered in bruises and blood. Shifting back to human, he looked himself over. He had a head wound above his eye that was bleeding badly, a few more scratches from rocks and branches, but everything else was only bruised or sore. They knew the most worrying thing was the head wound. While they had had a few before, they still weren't sure what to do, especially when it was bleeding so much. Izuku! He turned at the sound of his name. He recognized this voice. They were going to change and go to the voice, but when they stood and tried to turn into a fox, it was like their body was fighting against them. Black spotted his vision and he fell to the ground. Izuku! Shaking their head, they looked around and saw Hisashi running towards them. Once the hero was close enough, he could see the blood. While most of it seemed small, the head wound looked bad, the red mixing in with their white hair. Izuku curled in on themselves, whimpered slightly when their vision swam again. Are you okay? Hisashi kneeled near the younger, not wanting to make them uncomfortable. What happened? Aurochs. Izuku felt around the wound and hissed when he found it, tried to make them leave. You did a good job, little listener. I doubt they're coming back. Hisashi tried to joke, but Izuku only whimpered more. Alright, you need medical attention. That head wound looks bad. Can you stand? Fell, can't change. The blonde sighed a little. Alright, is it okay if I pick you up? We don't need you getting hurt anymore. Izuku nodded, trying to hold back any noises as Hisashi carefully picked up the child. As soon as they were in his arms, they shifted around, seeming to crawl over him before settling on his back and holding on. Okay, I know you don't like hospitals, so we're going to wear me and show work. There's a very nice lady there who can fix you right up. Nice. Hisashi laughed a little. She'll be so nice to you, I promise. Aizawa felt like he was going to kill some kids today. First they bullied his son multiple times, and then they had gone after their other kid. Even if Izuku wasn't adopted yet, they had very much called dibs on the animal shifter. Alright, Zashi said he took them to Recovery Girl. How bad was it? Is he okay? Hitoshi asked anxiously as they got into the car, heading to the school. I'm sure he's fine. Your pops just said it was a bad head wound. She'll get them fixed right away. The kid nodded, still looking a little guilty. What's wrong? It's just, if Izuku hadn't helped then they wouldn't be hurt. Aizawa looked to him for a moment before sighing. That's illogical. Neither of you had any reason to believe they would try and attack him in the woods. Sure, maybe if they saw you two outside of school again or something, but there's no reason they should have known he was in the woods to begin with. I think one of their dads works with Detective Tsukachi. I'll ask him about it later. Officers shouldn't be talking about cases outside of work. Since Hisashi has it covered, let's get some food for them, alright? I'm sure Izuku's hungry. We should get him something with meat, he seems to really like it. I swear that kid is gonna eat a bear one day. Aizawa paused, scratch that they probably have. Hisashi was glad it was a Saturday. Sure, he felt a little bad calling in Recovery Girl, but Nezu had assured him the woman needed to do some paperwork anyway. He had also sent a text to Nemuri to keep everyone away from them for now. She didn't know much about Izuku, but she promised to keep the others away. He was halfway to the nurse's office when he felt something wrap around his arm. Looking down, he saw the coiled tail gripping his arm. Izuku was mostly hiding his face in the blonde's back though. "It's okay, little listener, no one is gonna bother us, okay?" The kid made a weird sound. "Hey, talk to me, what's wrong?" Can't change." "Why do you need to change?" They let out a growl-like sound before holding onto Hizashi tighter. "Is it 'cause you're scared?" "There's no reason to be scared. I'm right here, no one's gonna hurt you." "They did. And they're bad people, no one should hurt you or Hitoshi, you helped him with them, right?" "I was a rear-articulated python that they're big." "Really? How big can they get?" He felt their tail loosen around his arm, though it didn't drop, can get to about 6.25 meters or 20.5 feet, but the largest one was 10 meters. Hizashi let out a low whistle, hearing the kid copy it quietly, thought when they did it sounded more like a bird. "That's pretty big. What did you turn into to scare em off?" "Wolf." "Are you scared of wolves?" "No, don't like them." How come?" "They keep biting me." Izuku shifted a little and showed his arm, moving his sleeve a bit and showing the old scared claw and bite marks. "T2 packs in the woods. I am like one the other keeps trying to hurt me." "Well, that's not very nice." Izuku shook his head, making Hizashi laugh a little. "Alright, we're here." They looked at the door and held on tightly to the other. "It's okay if you don't want to go in, but she's nice and you still need help. You can't change, remember?" Hizashi waited while Izuku seemed to think, "Okay." He knocked on the door before entering, not all that surprised to see Nezu with Recovery Girl. "All right, Yamada, who do you have for me for today?" She walked over to the pair, looking to Izuku with a small smile. "And what's your name, dearie?" "Izuku." "Well, Izuku, it looks like you have a pretty bad cut on your head. Why don't you come down here so I can take a look?" The kid hesitated, holding on to Hizashi for a moment. "You can keep holding his hand, but I need you down here to see how bad it is." Keeping their tail and hand latched onto the hero's sleeve, he climbed down and crouched so Recovery Girl could see it more clearly. "There's a lot of blood here, let's get you cleaned up and take another look." While Recovery Girl helped Izuku clean his hair out in the sink, Nezu got Hizashi's attention. "I see you were able to befriend them." "It was mostly Hitoshi and Shoyuta, but he likes me a little at least." "A connection is still a connection, though I do have to ask about the mask he wears." "Not sure, he takes it off just fine." "Interesting." The principal walked up to the younger. "Hello, Izuku." The younger looked to him once they finished with his hair. "My name is Principal Nezu." "Am I a mouse? A bear? Who knows?" They tilted their head a little, their tail swishing back and forth. "While Recovery Girl helps you, would you mind answering some questions?" "Okay, are you a stout?" "Very smart, I see." "Yes, that is my base animal." Once Izuku was sat on one of the beds, Hizashi sat next to him, letting the kid wrap their tail around his arm again. "Now I do have a question about your tail. In your old file it said you had 3, is there a reason it only appears as 1? I hide it." Slowly he unwound the tail, letting the others see them and Recovery Girl check them for injuries. "People don't like them." "Well, I think they're very pretty, little listener." Izuku blushed and bumped his head against the hero's arm. "Fascinating. Other questions will have to be put on hold, Nezu. The head injury seems to have messed with their quirk, so Izuku honey, I'm going to use mine and let you sleep. When you wake up you'll feel better." They looked to Hizashi, who nodded, patting their head a little, being careful of the wound. "It's all right, Izuku. Shoyuta and Hitoshi are on their way too. Once they get here we'll wake you up, okay?" "Okay. Once you're awake we can talk more about animals," Nezu offered. That seemed to make them perk up as they let out a slight chirp sound. "Sleep well, dearie." Recovery Girl kissed his cheek, all them watching as the child slowly sank against Hizashi's side, unwilling to let the hero go. I feel like I'm gonna die from cuteness." The blonde ran his hand through Izuku's hair, making them purr. "Oh my god. Quiet down, you blonde fool. He can still wake up." She lightly tapped him with her cane, being careful of the sleeping child. Nedzu watched them with a small smile before also petting the child. Their hair is very soft. I'm surprised they hide their horns with the beanie. Nedzu looked at the appendages and hummed. I'm sure when he gets older they will be larger. As well as the tails, I'm sure. Oh God, who showed the rat the kid? They all turned to see Hitoshi and Aizawa holding a few bags. We also brought snacks. Good idea. Poor thing might need some after his nap. Recovery girl looked through the bag. Why in God's name do you have a package of raw meat? I read somewhere that people with animal-based quirks often eat the same food as their animal, and I'm pretty sure they've eaten a wolf. I don't think some raw cow will kill them. Aizawa explained with an eye roll while Hitoshi carefully sat next to Izuku, laughing a little when their tail wrapped around his arm. Fine, but don't let him make a mess in my office. I am curious if he will eat the raw meat. I haven't seen his teeth, but I assume they are sharp? Nedzu asked, looking to Aizawa, who nodded. I saw them when he helped me with a wolf attack. He can also change certain parts of himself. He was able to just change his teeth into a snake's rather than their whole body. Interesting. I wonder if they would mind doing a few tests for me. Hey, Aizawa pointed at him with a glare. I called dibs. This is our kid. Then I shall be the godfather. Does that mean Nedzu's my godfather? Of course. No. The hero glared at Nedzu, though Hisashi looked like he was trying not to laugh. How hurt was he? Hitoshi asked, letting the two others keep arguing, even though they all knew Nedzu would win. Not too bad, just the head wound, made him a bit woozy and he couldn't change for some reason, but other than that just some bruising. What happened exactly? Hitoshi just gave me the shortened version. The kids that were messing with him before didn't stop and Izuku helped him one day. One of their dads works with Tsukachi and I'm sure there were a few videos or photos of Izuku in the forest and they connected it and decided to go looking for them. I'm not sure what happened on Izuku's side exactly, but it seemed like they attacked him with sticks and rocks. I'm gonna become a child murderer. No, you're not, Sho. Hisashi stood to stop his husband but paused when he felt claws dig into his pants. Looking down, Izuku had shifted to laying on his lap with one hand holding onto his pants. Honey, look. This is one of the cutest things I've ever seen. He's like a giant cat. You should all let the giant cat sleep then. Recovery girl whispered, waving her cane around. Head wounds can be very serious. Now keep quiet or I kick you out. None of them were going to argue with her, all of them sitting down and talking quietly so they didn't disturb the kid. Izuku felt exhausted. Normally when he slept in his burrow it wasn't this noisy, even with the small prey animals wandering around and chattering outside. Tightening his grip on whatever cloth he was laying on, he let out a growl that usually got the animals to be quiet. Guys, I think they're waking up. With that, their eyes shot open and they felt themselves shift into their large flying fox form and stick to the ceiling. Definitely awake. Hi, Izuku. We didn't mean to scare you, little listener. Hisashi looked up and smiled at the bat, trying not to laugh when it just screeched at him. You want to come down? Izuku looked at the group for a moment, nodding a little and turning into a cat, landing on the bed with a small thump, before turning back into his human form. A fantastic display, Izuku. Do you instinctively turn into animals, or is it a conscious thought? He thought about it for a moment before making a motion with his hand. Interesting, can you turn into all animals? Have to know about it, understand the animal first, see it move. They tried to think of a good way to explain it. Can turn into koi, trouble turning into a whale. I see, so you must know of and understand what the animal is. How have you seen some of these animals? Zoos.im. Went in. They picked at their hoodie with their head ducked down, like they were waiting for punishment. So if we showed you a whale you could turn into a whale? Aizawa asked, very tempted to show Izuku a video of a whale and then asking the kid to crush the school. Depends that I like whale sharks but do not esperem whales. To big. Do big things scare you? Hisashi smiled a little sympathetically. Small things scared him. Bigger than me. And how big are you? Nedzu asked this time. Big, not bigger than esperem whale. Hitoshi laughed a little at that. He's got a point. That snake you turned into was pretty large. Izuku's tail shifted back and forth a little. I like snakes that they're interesting. Lots of things. If you don't mind me asking, Izuku, why do you talk like that? The kid tilted his head a little. Had to learn from people talking around me. Reading is easier. Can you write? When they shook their head before pausing and tilting it, Aizawa felt like he was going to throwing his hand through the wall. Can you try and explain? Can better with symbols. Do you think if we taught you JSL you'd have an easier time? Izuku just stared at Hizashi. JSL is like talking but with your hands, like this, means, hello, stuff like that. The kid only shrugged. I can teach you, I'm still learning. Hitoshi offered, getting a smile, though that could only tell because his eyes squinted slightly. Kid, you know you can take the mask off, right? Izuku turned to Aizawa and shook his head. Why not? I have sharp teeth that might bite someone. Have you bitten someone? They seemed to think for a moment before shrugging. Bite animals, not people, except myself. So then it's okay to take the mask off, right? Are you not sure? Of course. I would also like to see your teeth. Hizashi and Aizawa glared at Nedzu, but Recovery Girl agreed. I'm interested as well. You likely have a mostly meat diet, right? Izuku nodded, slowly taking the mask off, watching all of their reactions before smiling a little. Hizashi let out a low whistle. Once again they repeated the sound with a more melodic tune. You do have quite sharp teeth. And you're able to change them. Izuku nodded again and opened his mouth a little, allowing the teeth to grow before settling to look like a tiger's mouth. Amazing. Are you able to do that to other parts of your body? Izuku just lifted their hand and showed as it turned into a tiger paw before showing their tail and nothing happening. So your mutations are fixed then? Stays. That is what fixed means. If Hitoshi here is going to teach you JSL, I would be more than willing to teach you more words. Aizawa was glaring at the principal, but Nedzu just ignored it. Yes. He made a growl-like sound, but they all assumed it meant a good thing since he hadn't stopped smiling. Izuku, would you mind me taking some scans? Recovery Girl asked. I think with the sounds you make you might also be changing your vocal cords. Either that or it's another mutation of your quirk. Do we even have that equipment in UA? We go beyond plus ultra. Yes, Aizawa, we have the equipment. Are you alright with that, Izuku? The kid looked around at everyone before nodding. Then give me one moment. Nedzu had Recovery Girl run a few more tests along with the scans, wanting to see if their body was in peak health or not. The scans showed that their vocal cords were in fact mutated while in human form, but when changed to a different animal they shifted to fit the animal. It also showed that the two smaller tails were all cartilage like a stingray's while the larger tail did have bones. Doing the full exam also showed old bone breaks and sprains, though Recovery Girl had pointed out that they all healed correctly. The physical exam also showed scars from other animals, Izuku explaining how he got all of the bite marks or slashes, even the ones not from animals freaked the family out. I swear I'm gonna wrap that kid in bubble wrap, Hizashi said while staring at the group. Hitoshi was never that bad, even when he tried to sled down the stairs. Aizawa looked over to the two kids, both now sitting on the bed while Hitoshi showed Izuku different letters in JSL. In Izuku's defense, he literally raised himself in the woods. I think if Hitoshi spent more than an hour alone in the woods he would do worse. How hard do you think you could bite me? Both stood up at that. All right, kiddos. Hizashi carefully pulled Izuku closer to him while Aizawa glared at their son. Why don't we eat? I remember Sho and Hitoshi getting food right. Luckily the kids seemed to like the distraction and contact, using their tail to hold onto Hizashi's arm again. Oh yeah, we got you raw meat. Hitoshi grabbed the bags and dumped the contents onto the bed, shifting through it before pulling out the package and handing it to Izuku. They looked at it for a moment before tearing it open and pulling a piece out, sniffing it and then shoving it into their mouth with a purr. This is awesome, I feel like I'm feeding a lion. Don't call Izuku a lion, they're also a child. A baby lion. Aizawa just sighed while Hizashi laughed. Alright, I need to go tell Nem what happened before she dash. I heard there was a baby. Izuku jumped a little and growled before Hizashi patted their head. The kid looked around before curling back up with their food. It's a little lion. Not a lion. He just seemed to like turning into foxes and tigers, perhaps he's adopted their habits. Nedzu suggested with a smirk, watching Aizawa groan again. Well, what's the little tiger lily's name? She sat across from them with a smile. This is Izuku, my new pet lion. He is not your pet. But we're keeping them, right? Aizawa just rolled his eyes while Izuku purred and looked for more food, taking the snacks Hitoshi handed to him. Yes, we'll adopt the kid if they want to live with us. Hitoshi only laughed while Namuri cooed. He's so cute, just look at him. I know, right? He fell asleep on me and I felt like I could never move. Izuku watched them go back and forth before looking at Nedzu again and shifting into a stoat and running up the principal before relaxing against his shoulders. I've never had to carry anyone before. Nedzu pet them with a smile while Namuri practically shrieked. If they don't want you guys, I'll take them. We call dibs. So you can call dibs, but I can't call them my pet lion? Yes. Izuku watched them for a moment before he seemed to perk up, looking around the room before focusing on the window. He jumped off of the principal and ran to the window, shifting to human and opening it, looking around. Izuku? Everything okay? Hear her. They all looked to each other, wondering who it was, but their questions were answered when a pale dove landed on the windowsill, chirping at Izuku and pecking at his hand lightly. Izuku soon started making chirping sounds back before turning into a dove, the two animals seeming to communicate. Interesting. Nedzu rubbed his chin with a smile. They can talk to animals and copy their sounds, but it also seems like they can communicate with them through movements, like many natural animals. It would explain why he does random movements sometimes. Ah, he's a little dancer. They watched as the two birds hopped around and chirped before Izuku changed back and let the other bird fly away. What was that about, sweetie? Izuku tilted his head for a moment before smiling. Was watching her babies. That's why you didn't run away. Hizashi picked Izuku up, spinning them around. Our little hero. The child just let it happen, going slack in the hero's grip. Hey Izuku, they let out a trill sound, turning their body in Hizashi's grip to look at Hitoshi. Are you staying with us now? I can show you my room and stuff. They scrunched their eyebrows a little, their tails swishing a bit. Remember what I said, Izuku? If you're invited inside you can go, but you don't have to. Wanna? They climbed up Hizashi before settling on his back again, like being with you. Sho. I'm gonna cry. The blonde reached behind him and grabbed Izuku, holding him against his chest while sobbing. But I'm an aunt of two. Namuri turned to Hitoshi. Are you excited to have a sibling? Gonna get some rivalry going? Fight over the controllers? Yeah, he's pretty cool, but no, I'm not doing any rivalry or fighting. He can literally just turn into a bear and eat me. Izuku slipped out of Hizashi's hold and turned into a snake, winding around Hitoshi's arm and bonking him with their horns. I know you wouldn't eat me. Talking about adopting Izuku was easy, even getting the proper paperwork done was easy, getting them to stay in the house though seemed like a problem. Hey Izuku, Hitoshi pulled himself up onto the roof and sat next to the other. What are you doing out here? Like it? Do you ever want to go back to the forest? Izuku turned to him and tilted their head. I mean, you did kind of have a whole life out there, right? I did that, I do. Maybe we could go there sometimes. I mean, you've lived there like your entire life. I doubt Dad or Pops would mind us going out there. If you're okay with me coming with you, he smiled at Hitoshi, using his tails to carefully squeeze the other. Cool, maybe we can ask them tomorrow and you can stop running away to the roof and hiding under furniture. Like hiding, cats join me. That's because Mangy and BSTRD thrive on chaos. The two laughed a little, not making a move to leave the roof until a few hours later when Aizawa got back from patrol. What are you two doing out here? It's getting cold out. He ushered them both inside, smiling when he saw Hitoshi lay on the top bunk while Izuku went under the beds where blankets were gathered. Get some sleep, you two, you have stuff in the morning. Izuku, you have to wear shoes. The child frowned and looked at their feet for a moment. Why? Aizawa rubbed his eyes with a sigh. Because most places have rules about wearing shoes, kid, you have to wear them when we go out. He frowned again before showing the bottom of his foot. Yes, Izuku, I know you can just change to protect your feet, but you have to wear shoes cause not everyone knows that. Are you still trying to get him to put shoes on? Hitoshi asked with a smirk. Shut up, you weren't this bad. Wow, comparing kids already, Dad? Don't get me started, Hitoshi, the kid cackled before grabbing his own shoes. See Izuku? Hitoshi puts them on. Don't you want to be like your brother? No. Did you think that would work? Hitoshi, I swear to God. Let me try. Hitoshi pretended to cough into his fist. Izuku, if you put your shoes on for this one trip, we can get you these special shoes Pops saw that'll be more comfortable. Izuku narrowed their eyes at Hitoshi. Once. Just this once. The two stared each other down before Izuku nodded and began putting his shoes on. I hate this family. Aizawa stood up and rubbed his eyes. Zashi, let's go. You have to get Izuku shoes or he's going barefoot next time. On it. They had gone to the shoe store first, just like they promised Izuku, and had already gone through 5 different pairs of shoes. They tried one specifically for people with claw mutations, but he said they still felt cramped and wrong. They tried a few different sandals and Izuku agreed to wear them if they had to, but they still didn't like them. At this point Aizawa was willing to give up and just figure out how to bribe the child into wearing sandals. Okay, Izuku, is there a reason you don't like shoes? He pulled his legs up onto the chair while Aizawa crouched in front of him. Hizashi and Hitoshi had gone off somewhere else to supposedly get the shoes Hizashi had seen and thought they were a better idea than all of this. They made a slight growl sound before shaking their head, like gloves or mask. Gloves or, Aizawa trailed off before sighing, it makes it harder to defend yourself. Izuku nodded happily while the underground hero covered his eyes. Now he felt bad for trying to get the child to put shoes on. Okay, let's try what Hizashi is bringing, then if those don't work we'll just make you wear long pants so no one notices. Sorry. Don't apologize, it's not your fault. He ruffled the kid's white hair with a smile, watching as their tails swished a little. Okay, the reason we didn't try these first is because, well, these were like a last resort idea. Hizashi and Hitoshi came back, the blonde holding a black bag, plus we had to order these. I wasn't going to originally, but then Nedzu sent me a cryptic text, so I'm trying not to question it. That rat is going to drive me up a wall. Stout. Fine, the stout is going to drive me up a wall. Give me the shoes, Zashi. He took the bag and opened it, staring at the contents for a moment. Zashi. So I did some research and these actually do count as shoes. With a sigh Aizawa pulled out what looked like foot guards that were used in Taekwondo, the heel, ball of the foot, and toes left uncovered but the rest of the foot covered in a thin black fabric. Izuku stared at them for a moment before grabbing them and putting them on. It took him a moment to get them on correctly before securing the parts on the back of his ankle. How does it feel? So far it was winning about as much as the sandals. The normal shoes Izuku had put them on for a moment before kicking them off and hissing. Standing up, they let out a trill before hopping around and spinning. I think they like them. Thank God, Aizawa sighed. Okay, are they paid for? Hizashi nodded. Good, let's get clothes, more bedding, and whatever else we need to get before I finally decide to bring out my sleeping bag. You didn't even bring it with you. Hitoshi, you know better than to question me. By the end of the shopping trip Izuku officially had something close to shoes, the fluffiest blankets known to man, and a bunch of random clothes they had all picked out, because Izuku didn't really care what the clothes looked like as long as they were comfortable and he could move in them. For the love of God, can I nap now? Yes, Sho, you can have a nap. I will be joining the nap, father. Are you tired yet, Izuku? The child looked to Hizashi before shaking his head. All right, then it'll just be us for the rest of the day. As soon as they got home Hitoshi and Aizawa both passed out on the couch, leaving Izuku and Hizashi to take in all the bags. Not that either minded, especially when Izuku could just turn into a buck and they could hang the bags on his antlers. Anything you want to do, Zuku? Hizashi looked over his shoulder, not surprised when the kid climbed onto his back and settled there. Walk? The blonde chuckled and ruffled their hair. They really did act like the house pet. Sure. They walked through the streets with Izuku looking in slight wonder, while he had traveled around the city at night, seeing it in daylight with so many people was so much different. Hizashi had a destination in mind though. The parents had talked about signing their kids up for classes, though they had mostly been talking about Hitoshi until Izuku showed up, and with all the access energy Izuku seemed to have, it was a good idea. While they knew Hitoshi wanted to be a hero, specifically like his dad rather than Pops, None of them knew if Izuku even wanted to be a hero. The classes could be for fun though if they decided not to be a hero. Would you look at this? Hizashi pretended to be shocked when he stopped in front of a gymnastics gym. I wonder what this is. Izuku stared at him before giggling. Bad liar, why here? The blonde rubbed his neck a little. It was honestly strange how well Izuku could read anyone, let alone trained heroes. Well, Hitoshi wants to be a hero like Sho, right? And that needs training. Izuku nodded along, and well, I'm not sure if you want to be a hero, but the classes could help with your energy and could just be for fun. The kid looked between the gym and Hizashi. Help being a hero? They pointed to the doors. Yep. Izuku nodded before beginning to drag Hizashi to the doors. All right. Let's do this, little listener. Mina loved the gym, getting to run around, do gymnastics and dance. She was in heaven every time she came through those doors. She knew everyone that went there and she knew every worker by name, just like they all knew hers, so she knew when someone new was in the gym. Looking the other kid over, it was easy to tell they were around her age. They had fluffy white hair with black horns and a strange coiled tail swishing behind them. They wore a dark purple long-sleeved shirt with black pants and a strange wrapping on their feet. She stared at him for another moment before smiling. She was going to befriend this newcomer and introduce them to the wonders of gymnastics and dance if it killed her. Getting closer to him, she could see a few scars on his face and a few peeking out of his collar and sleeves. Maybe he was in danger or something. If she was going to be a hero, then she needed to save him. Hi there. They jumped at her voice but still tried to smile and wave. She noticed their slightly clawed nails. My name's Mina. I couldn't help but notice we both have horns. She put her hand to her chin and struck a pose, waiting a moment before looking to them. He wore a large smile before nodding and pointing between their horns. Exactly. And personally, I think that's a sign from the universe that we're destined to be friends. Do you ignore the universe? He tilted his head, but she only smiled. Good. So we're best friends now. She grabbed their arm and began dragging them to one of the spring floors. He made a slight squeak sound before seeming to just accept it and follow after her. Thank you so much, sir. I'm sure my kids would love it here. We'll be seeing more of you soon, I'm sure. Hizashi shook hands with the owner. All right, Izuku, why dash? He paused, realizing Izuku wasn't where he left him. Izuku? Oh, looks like they made a friend. The owner pointed to one of the spring floors where a girl with pink skin and horns, who wore blue shorts and a green shirt, was showing Izuku how to do a handstand. Huh, wasn't expecting that, Hizashi chuckled. Maybe you'll see us sooner. Hitoshi liked his new sibling. It was genuinely hard not to like Izuku though. They were strange but in a nice way. They protected him from bullies, and was even better at convincing their dads to do get things than Hitoshi was, simply because he could just turn into a puppy and do actual puppy eyes. He had been worried that maybe he would grow to hate Izuku for all the reasons he had seen on the internet about parents sometimes loving the new child more, or maybe they just wouldn't get along, but Hitoshi really loved having Izuku as a little brother. It might have been because Izuku was a mostly blank slate and Hitoshi got to show him all these things from some meme to straight up how to read and talk. He never worried about Pops and Dad loving Izuku more because the two practically did everything together, and the few times Izuku went somewhere with one, the other would stay with Hitoshi. No one was ever really left out. Even on the random days Izuku would sometimes leave to go to the forest. With Hitoshi not far behind, he still had fun, especially when Izuku got to teach him something for once. He was even excited when he learned they were going to be taking classes to be better heroes, because that meant they could be heroes together. Hitoshi, however, did not like Mina Ishido. Sure, she was nice and helped them with gymnastic moves, complimented them when they did good, and sometimes tried to help Izuku when they were doing work Netsu have given them. It was a fight to get them to wear shoes. Aizawa did not want to fight about wearing a uniform until they were older. So Hitoshi didn't like Mina because sometimes it felt like she was trying to take his brother, especially in this situation, where she was literally trying to convince Izuku to be her sibling. It would be so fun, Izuku. The horns already mean the universe thinks we should at least be friends. The white-haired boy was doing a handstand, still tilting his head a little when she mentioned the universe. Ignore her. Hitoshi got out of his own handstand, stretching his arms above him with a slight groan. She just likes to hear her own voice. Izuku only shrugged as much as you could while upside down, and went back to trying out a flip they had seen. You don't have to be so mean, Hitoshi. The girl crossed her arms with a huff. I think you're just jealous I give all my attention to Izuku. He rolled his eyes before grabbing a fallen towel and throwing it in her face. Hey. That stupid shtick might work on the schoolboys where you're from, but not me. She rolled her eyes right back. If I wanted attention, I'd do stupid things. Climbing fridge with me? Izuku asked, seeming to tune back into the conversation. No, that was to see why you like sitting on top of the fridge so much. Tall. Hitoshi nodded along. They did get to be tall when they were on the fridge. Well then why don't you like me? She whined, hanging off his shoulders with a groan. We could all be family and you're ruining the vibe. Probably because every chance you get you try to take my brother from me? Have you seen your sibling though? They're so cute. Hitoshi rolled his eyes, shoving her off and letting her roll dramatically on the floor. Whatever, Mina. Izuku paused and watched the two argue. He didn't see his family argue often. He knew his parents argued about hours and family time sometimes or about tough cases, but they always assured him they weren't leaving over a small thing. He had even argued with all of them a few times, the shoe incident, when he climbed onto Hisashi a little too often, when he left Hitoshi at home or stole one of his blankets, but this felt different. Izuku knew Mina and Hitoshi liked hanging out, otherwise they would be arguing all of the time or ignoring each other, but they only argued sometimes and it was usually about Izuku or heroes. They knew their brother well. Enough to know he had trouble with people who had heroic quirks and good lives. Not that Izuku blamed him, they sometimes got jealous about that stuff, but they were happy with their life. Watching the two fight reminded him of the wolf packs in the forest, the one he always fought against and the one that let him hunt with them, except Mina wasn't trying to actively kill him. Once they got home, Izuku grabbed Hitoshi's hand and dragged him into their room. Sitting on the bottom bunk, Izuku crossed his arms and stared at Hitoshi. What? Why do you argue? Hitoshi seemed surprised by the question, but Izuku wasn't done. Don't hate each other, what's wrong? Nothing's wrong, Izuku. Their tail lightly hit Hitoshi. I'm not lying. Yes, you are. The taller groaned and flopped onto the bed, not surprised to see Izuku shift into Fennec Fox and sit on his chest, waiting for him to answer. The two laid there silently until Hitoshi sighed. Would you have gone with someone else if they offered? The fox stared at him for a moment, tilting their head this way and that before shaking it. You're sure? Some other nice family could have wandered in and taken you in? The fox shifted back to his brother, though they didn't move. Wouldn't have gone. Why not? Not you. Yeah, but you didn't know us. Izuku thinks for a moment before answering. I did. Hitoshi sits up a little with a surprised look. I followed Dad, not just on patrol. Izuku looked down a little. Saw you and Pops a lot. Liked you all, so no, only you. The two sat silently before Hitoshi chuckled. God, you're such a stalker. Shut up. Izuku sat up and grabbed the pillow, smacking Hitoshi with it like they had seen in the movies. Hey! It quickly devolved into the two play fighting in their room, though Hitoshi kept losing. The next day when they go back to the gym, Izuku shoves Hitoshi towards Mina with a smile before going to one of the teachers. What was that about? Mina asked as she stretched her legs. We talked yesterday about that stuff. Mina lifted an eyebrow at him, looking unimpressed. God, you both do that, you know? Of course we do. We were besties by law of the universe. Hitoshi rolled his eyes but sat next to her on the mats. Look, that I really like my brother, he's awesome. I thought I would grow to hate him or be envious because of his quirk or something, but I'm not. I'm excited about being his brother and about becoming heroes together, even with... Hitoshi paused and took a deep breath. I was bullied for my quirk because it's a villain quirk, but Izuku, my dad's, don't see it that way, and I like that. I like that they have confidence and pride in me, but it's not hard sometimes when you, who has an amazing quirk and the personality to be a hero, joke about taking him away. Hitoshi, he looked to Mina who was crying. I would never. She suddenly jumped up and tackled him into a hug. You guys are my best friends. I would obviously take both of you. Har har. She sat up and looked at him seriously. I don't know what your quirk is, but I know you, and I know you would never be a villain, so everyone who said otherwise can shut their mouth, all right? She hugged him again, a little tighter this time. Thanks Mina, that means a lot. He hesitantly hugged her back, the two just laying on the mats before Izuku draped himself over both of them. Better? Friends. Yeah, we're friends. We better be. I'm making friendship bracelets. She gasped. Do either of you know how to make friendship bracelets? When they both shook their heads, she gasped again. That is cruel. We must learn post-haste. Pulling out the big words? Hey. They were on Izuku's homework. Not my fault he doesn't use them. The white-haired teen only smiled and followed after the two, happy to see them not arguing. Eraser, Aizawa had his face down on the desk, trying to ignore his working co-workers, but this one was percipient. I know you're awake. What do you want, Vlad? The other heroics teacher put a file on his desk. I have a student, Tamaki Amajiki. His quirk allows him to turn into whatever he eats. And what does that have to do with me? Vlad sighed. He needs help learning how to use his transformations. I assumed you would have a way to help him? It wasn't the first time Vlad had asked for his assistance on a student. Even the few times Aizawa had a student, it wasn't unusual for him to ask Vlad's opinion on something. Sure, they had a strange rivalry, but they were teachers trying to prepare the next generation. I'm not sure. Transformation quirks, especially ones likely animal-based like Amajiki, are hard to find. I can see dash. Show honey, Present Mike interrupted with a smile. We know someone with an animal transformation quirk. You do? Good, would they be willing to help Amajiki then? Zashi, we don't dash. This time it was Aizawa that cut himself off before sighing. Yes we do, and I can ask. I'll see if I can bring them in tomorrow. Thank you then. Shoda, did you forget about one of our kids? Aizawa glared at the other hero. No, I just didn't think of them when he brought up a student needing help. I mean, it makes the most sense. Izuku has a talent for turning into animals with a single glance at them, plus the rate he changes is impressive. Did I just hear you're bring one of my nephews in? Midnight practically jumped onto their desks. You should bring both. I can watch the little sheet while you take care of the lion. Don't even nem, they're both little sheets. Hitoshi and that Mina girl have him corrupted. You have to admit, it's a little adorable seeing them make plans. Present Mike turned to Midnight with a wide smile. Everyone always thinks Izuku is smart, but he was raised by literal animals and has an incredibly analytical brain. Don't remind me, Ned's been bothering me about having more classes with both the boys. Aizawa leaned back in his chair with a groan. Turns out Hitoshi just needed a partner in crime. To become even more of a menace. Ah, the little babies are bonding. I have to meet this Mina girl too if she's such an influence. Hitoshi was thinking of inviting her over for a sleepover. I think Izuku just planned on kidnapping her. We're still working on the laws and boundaries of the world. I'll let the little guy kidnap their friend. It'll probably be fine. Sure, until they show up in her room as a giant wolf or a tiger. Little lion baby just want a friend. Aizawa rolled his eyes and set his head back down, deciding to ignore the other two as they kept making jokes and trying to think of how to ask for Izuku's help. Izuku, Hitoshi. Aizawa called for them as soon as he got into the house. They all found out it was better to just rip the band-aid off because Izuku somehow always knew something was wrong. You home. In Izuku's room. Hitoshi called, which meant Izuku was probably in animal form or in a growl mood. Not that Aizawa ever blamed them, he was always in a growl mood. As the boys got older, the four had moved into a slightly larger house, allowing the boys their own rooms, a larger kitchen and living room, an office for Hisashi and Aizawa, and not to mention even a small backyard they often trained or played in. Walking into Izuku's room, he looked around for the two, not spotting them at first. Izuku's room looked like the forest, having a soft green carpet floor with hand-painted walls courtesy of the room's resident. Their bed was raised high enough off the floor that it allowed them and the cats to hide under it when they wanted, a few extra blankets stored under there to create a nest, while the actual bed was large enough to fit a few people into its blanket nest. There were different cat towers with fake leaves strung around them and even a few ledges that they could lounge on. Though everyone liked the ceiling, it was painted a dark blue to look like the sky, while there were glowing stars and string lights hanging to create light for the room. Hitoshi was currently at Izuku's desk, not that the other used it, while Izuku was in his flying fox form, hanging upside down on one of the cat towers while Mangy and BSRD laid on the different ledges. How was school? It was fine. My teacher got that extra work from Nedzu and it helped boost my grade. Izuku let out a small screech. He said it was fine and Nedzu gave him an idea for his quirk and mine. Oh, what were the ideas? That if Izuku can turn into any animal as long as he knows how it works or moves, then technically he should be able to turn into fictional animals, though he wouldn't be able to breath fire or anything. Maybe. He spun in the chair to face Aizawa. He also wants to test me range and if I could manipulate my voice to better catch people. Don't hurt yourself by screaming too much and don't burn the house down as a dragon. Hitoshi smirked while Izuku only screeched before flying over to Aizawa and landing on his back. Fine, you caught me. He sat down on the bed, allowing Izuku to change into a wolf and lay across his lap with a tail wag. One of Vlad's students needs help with their quirk. It's also a transformation quirk and I was wondering if you'd be willing to come to the school and help. If they go, can I come too? Aizawa lifted a brow. I could hang out with Nedzu, Pops, or Aunt Nem while you work. I just really want to try the manipulation voice thing. That's fine, just don't try to control the entire school. No promises. Aizawa rolled his eyes before ruffling his son's hair and looking to Izuku. The wolf tilted their head back and forth before huffing and laying on Aizawa's leg with a doppy smile and wagging their tail. As long as you're okay with it, we'll go tomorrow, so Hitoshi, you'll be called out of school. I get to skip and take over the school? Awesome. Hitoshi, no. All right, Hitoshi. You ready to spend a fun day with your pops and aunt? Can we visit Nedzu? He said he had a few more ideas for my quirk. Hizashi ruffled his hair. Sure thing. We can check during lunch. Hitoshi cheered as the blonde looked to his husband and other kid. You two have fun and keep me updated, all right? We will. Bye, Papa. Hizashi only cooed before dragging Hitoshi off, likely to sit in on classes with various teachers and tried to creep out some of the students. He was Aizawa's son too, after all. You ready, Izuku? The kid looked down the halls before jumping and transforming into a snake, coiling around Aizawa and hiding in his capture weapon. I like the way you think. He patted the snake before going to the 1B class. The two teachers had decided Aizawa would pull Tamaki out of classes so he would have more time to work while also scaring the other students with the possibility of being stuck with the teacher who expelled students left and right. He knocked on the door once before opening it. All of the students were frozen and staring at him. He let his eyes slowly rake over them before stopping at Tamaki. Amajiki, with me. He walked out of the doorway, listening as the others began to whisper while Tamaki gathered his things. Izuku popped their head out, rattling their tail. It's a little mean, but I have a reputation. Tamaki felt like he was going to shake out of his bones. He was already on edge with the looks Vlad had sent him yesterday, and now Aizawa was pulling him out of classes. He knew Aizawa's reputation and how scary the teacher could be, but Aizawa had calmed him down from a panic attack before, so he wasn't too bad. Aizawa had Tamaki change into his gym clothes before meeting him in one of the closed-off gyms. Vlad King told me you were having trouble with your transformations? Why, yes sir, I can transform, but sometimes I'm not sure what to use or how to. The teacher hummed before lifting his arm. Tamaki looked at him confused before a snake slowly slithered out of his capture weapon and onto his arm. Amajiki, I would like you to meet Izuku Ameda. Sir? That's a snake. The snake fell from Aizawa's arm and landed on the ground, coiling itself into a ball and rattling its tail while it stared at Tamaki. Correct. Do you know what kind of snake? A rattlesnake? The teacher nodded. Why did you bring a snake? They're not only a snake. Just as he said that the snake turned into a large white tiger, now that the creature was larger, Tamaki was able to see the long black horns and strange coiled tail. They're also a tiger, a bat. It transformed into the biggest bat Tamaki had ever seen and flew around a bit, and a fox. After the last transformation they went to their human form, waving shyly at Tamaki. You have a transformation quirk. Ameda is very skilled with his quirk and has offered to assist you with your own. Then Aizawa pulled out a bag with boxes. Lunch rush made you some food to use while we do this. I suggest talking with him about possible uses. What about you, sir? I will be napping. Then he pulled out his sleeping bag, got in, and flopped onto the floor, seeming to ignore the two. What's in the bag? Izuku tilted his head before grabbing the bag of food. He took all of the different containers out and lined them up, all of them marked with the kind of meat used. It's okay to be nervous. Tamaki was a little surprised the kid knew how to sign, let alone so fluidly and quickly. I am nervous too, not good with people. At least they could relate. Not good with people either. My friend Mirio usually does all the talking. Don't need to talk, I will understand you. The team wasn't sure how accurate that statement was, but he wasn't going to turn down not having to talk, so all he did was nod. Good. Aizawa was pretending to sleep and he knew his kid knew this. His plan was to watch the two interact, maybe quietly push them in the right direction, take some notes to show Vlad later, and possibly stop the two if something went wrong. Except he didn't need to do any of that. He figured the two would get along, what with Tamaki's anxiety and Izuku's general lack of human interaction, and he was right, but he didn't think they would get along this well. The two didn't speak the entire time and Izuku would mostly sign or do a movement that Tamaki seemed to somehow understand. After a while of watching Izuku somehow show Tamaki why and how they chose to change certain parts of their body, he finally stopped them. Break time, Amajiki, go get lunch. Why yes sir. He bowed to the teacher before smiling sheepishly at Izuku. Thank you Izuku. Thanks. Once the student was gone, Izuku turned to Aizawa with a large sharp smile. Like him. I see that. He ruffled his kid's hair before letting them turn into ferret and hiding in his capture weapon again. Any opinions on lunch? They chomped their teeth almost violently. Meat? Why am I not surprised? After the school day, Aizawa was surprised to find that Izuku and Tamaki had exchanged phone numbers. It was rare for Izuku to text, but he supposed it was an olive branch for the student to ask for Izuku's help again if needed. Mina took a deep breath before knocking on the door, waiting only a moment before Hizashi answered. Ashido. Good to see you, come in. Thanks Mr. Yamada. She carefully kicked her shoes off before pushing them out of the way. You have a lovely home. Why thank you. The boys are in Izuku's room, let me know if you need anything alright. The pink girl nodded before running to the room, easily throwing her bag on the floor before jumping onto the bed. The favorite has arrived. She threw her arms around Izuku while Hitoshi spun in his chair. Izuku's been here. How dare you? Reaching back she grabbed a pillow and hurled it at him. Hey! Hitoshi grabbed the pillow and threw it back, missing when Mina rolled off the bed. Izuku watched the two mess around before grabbing Mina's bag and carefully putting things way around the room. They got to the bottom of the bag when they noticed two small bags, one full of strings and the other with beads. Mina. Both looked over to Izuku from their spot on the floor. What's this? She shoved Hitoshi off of her and skipped over. That, my dear friend, is what we need to make. She pretended to drum roll on her leg, friendship bracelets. With jazz hands she grabbed the bags and hopped onto the bed. We just need to pick our colors and what we want on them. Then we can make them and be friends forever. Next we can braid our hair and talk about boys. Hitoshi pretended to giggle before glaring at Mina. Braid our hair. Izuku wants his hair braided and then you can talk about boys. Hitoshi. What? I don't actually want to talk about boys. Kinda sounds like you do. Shut up. When Aizawa got home he immediately noticed the extra pair of shoes near the door. It took him a moment to remember, but he quickly realized that the shoes were Mina's, which meant she was here and likely hanging out with the boys in Izuku's room. Why must there be more children? Hizashi laughed from the kitchen, taking a moment before going into the living room and bringing with him 2 mugs and a plate of food. You love all the kids, don't lie to yourself. He handed Aizawa the mug, who greedily drank the coffee before sitting on the couch. They'll probably keep themselves busy and we can take a nap. How does that sound? I knew there was a reason I married you. The two ate their snack before laying on the couch and cuddling, the 2 cats quickly joining them. Wait, so then I just tie it off? Now we have matching bracelets. Though I am disappointed about the lack of boy talk. Hitoshi grabbed the pillow and threw it at Mina again, getting a laugh from the girl. What boys? Both the others froze and turned to Izuku with wide eyes. Mina looked to Hitoshi for help but the boy only shrugged. I guess that I don't know, there's this one guy in my class and he's not nice? Seriously? What? Doesn't talk to me but he seems friendly. We don't have boys. Yeah, Izuku's got a point, we don't really have any classmates to talk about. The white-haired boy hummed before smiling. Tamaki. You have a crush on Tamaki? What's a crush? Hitoshi dude, I am not old enough to give another person the birds and the bees talk. You think I am? Why are you both shouting? All three of them turned to Aizawa. What's a crush? The man looked down at Izuku and stared at him for a moment. Something you will never have. Why not? Because you're not allowed to date. What about me? You either. What about me? You're not my kid so I don't care. Wow, you don't care about your fake daughter? Real nice dad. Aizawa glared at Hitoshi who only shrugged. What if I want a crush? Yeah, what if they want a crush, dad? Mina asked with a large smirk. Still not my kid and still not allowed. Why not? Because I said so. Izuku glared this time, baring his teeth a little as his tail swished back and forth. Izuku no. The kid started growling. Izuku. See, now he'll get a crush to spite you. Didn't he say he had one on Tamaki? Aizawa zeroed in on Mina. They said what? Well, we were talking about boys and Izuku mentioned Tamaki. Aizawa looked to Izuku who hadn't backed down yet, still glaring at their father. I thought he said Tamaki 'cause he's like the only boy you guys know? Mina whispered as the other two kept glaring. I know, but it's really fun to mess with dad. Izuku, you do not have a crush on Amajiki. Why not? Because you don't even know what a crush is. Yes, I do. You just asked what a crush was. I learn quick. The two kept going back and forth for a while until Hisashi walked in. Hitoshi, Ashido, why are those two arguing? He sat on the bed next to the two kids, watching the other two like a tennis game. So Mina made a joke about us talking about boys, then she mentioned some guy in her class, then Izuku asked what a crush was and mentioned Tamaki 'cause he's like the only other guy we interact with. Then dad came in 'cause we were shouting and Izuku asked him what a crush was and dad said he'd never have one so he doesn't need to know and now Izuku is saying he does have one and yeah. Hisashi hummed before standing up and clapping Aizawa on the shoulder. As much as I would love to keep our boys away from romance forever, we do tragically have Namuri as a friend so. He gestured to the bed, all children on the bed, I'm explaining crushes. Is it also the SEC talk? God no, I am holding off forever on that, that is a nem thing. Izuku raised his hand with a smile. I know what that is. They all stared at them before Hisashi sighed. Right, raised in the woods with wild animals, okay? He clapped before plastering a smile on. All right, let's get started then. This was a weird sleepover. Mina laid on her stomach and kicked her feet with a large smile. I don't think I've ever seen your dad so uncomfortable. I know, right? I knew this friendship was an awesome idea. I don't have a crush on Tamaki. We know, buddy, we know. All right, men. Mina shouted with her hands on her hips. We will be embarking on a dangerous mission. Mina, what the hell are you talking about? Shut up, Hitoshi. Are we fighting? Both turned to Izuku, who hung upside down on one of the gymnastic poles. Yes, we're fighting, Hitoshi. Why? Because he's annoying. I argue we fight you for the same reason, Pinky. That sounds racist? Mina, the girl looked to Izuku who was trying not to laugh. Prepared? Yes. I almost forgot, but we are preparing for battle for in a week we will be. She drummed her fingers on her legs, taking the entrance exams. Haven't we been preparing for a while? Tamaki said prepared. Yeah, Izuku's student said we're all good. Well, Sensei Catgirl might be prepared. What about us? What about us? Hitoshi, Mina grabbed the boy's shoulder with a serious look. I've seen your little brother turn into a dragon. We, however, cannot do that. You have acid that comes out of you. If anything, I should be worried. He looked on a bit. I mean, my quirk doesn't really work against robots, which is why I'm kinda sad dads didn't let me do the recommendation exam. You'll do good. Izuku hopped off the bars and pulled Hitoshi into a hug. Best fighter out there. Dancing is a sport. Pinkie Pie, are you boys ready? Fluttershy, face without mouth raised, fist 2 hearts. Pinkie Pie, thanks. You'll do great too, Aizu. Discord. Is it too late to just sleep through all of this? Fluttershy, pleading face with raised eyebrows, zzz expressionless face. Discord. Fine, see you at the front gate. Pinkie Pie, woo. Still can't believe Dad and Pops didn't let us take the recommendation test. Hitoshi groaned, leaning on Izuku who only huffed. They're my boys. My good time pals. Mina tackled them from behind, getting a happy growl from Izuku, and my favorite little guys. They nudged her arm with a smile. Nervous still? I'll kick butt. We'll kick butt. She paused. Oh yeah. This is my man's Kiri. She dragged another teen over to them who looked just as awkward. Kiri, meet my friends. Izuku and Hitoshi. Sup, Hitoshi Ameda and my sibling Izuku. Nice to meet you bros. He waved a little. My name's Kirishima Eijiro. The teen obviously tried to put more enthusiasm into his words, but it didn't affect much. Hi. Izuku waved back, hero course. Kirishima stared for a moment before smiling. Yeah, totally. I hope I get in. We've talked about this. You will get in, we'll all get in. That's pretty unrealistic, but whatever makes you feel better. Mina and Hitoshi glared at each other, though there wasn't any real heat behind it. Let's go before all the spots are taken. Listening to Hisashi explain the entire thing, Izuku could tell he was hiding something, but it was obviously part of the test, so they ignored it. They trusted the staff to keep everyone safe. He changed into his workout clothes, black leggings with shorts and a tight athletic shirt. Izuku thought it was dumb to have the shorts and leggings, but his dads had been pretty adamant on having them. The difference he noticed about himself and the other examines was his lack of shoes. He wondered if Nedzu would let him go to school without shoes too. Excuse me. Izuku jumped a little and turned around, seeing a taller boy with engines on his legs. Is this some kind of joke to you? You are not wearing shoes. They stared for a moment, trying not to react as people began putting them at the bottom of the totem pole. Sign. Yes, I know sign. Now explain your lack of dash. Begin. Izuku shot off, ignoring the others' protests. They knew that when they were told to run, they ran. Immediately they came across a three-pointer. It was rather large, but they knew what to do. Turning into a stoat, they slipped between the plates of the machine, carefully chewing through the wires before it died. They went to a few more, doing the same thing before pausing and turning back to human, looking around and seeing a guy close to being crushed. They turned into a cheetah and raced over, snatching the person with their teeth away from the danger. Letting them go, they changed back and looked to the blonde. H hurt. Merci, but no, thank you for the assistance. I hope we meet again. Izuku nodded and went back to the robots. After a while, Izuku paused again. He didn't hear anyone in danger this time, but he could feel something getting closer. They have that thing? That's the zero-pointer. Let's get out of here. Izuku watched them all run away back towards the entrance, and he couldn't blame them. He was soon to join them, but something stopped him. Looking back towards the robot, they saw a girl trapped under some rubble. No one was helping her though, and the robot wasn't stopping. Izuku got low to the ground, turning into a cheetah again before running over to her. There wasn't anything he could do about the rubble in time to outrun the robot, so he had to take down the robot before it got to her. They turned into a hawk and flew above the robot before turning human, landing on its shoulder. The thing was big enough that its wires could be destroyed by their hands and teeth alone, no need for another change. Ripping into the metal hurt a bit, and he knew his hands were probably a little hurt, but the robot stopped its movements. Flying back down, he landed next to the girl who had freed herself. Hey, are you okay? She asked, looking a little pale. They nodded once before offering their hand, helping the girl up before picking her up. Thanks. Then she passed out. Izuku looked her over but didn't see any issues other than the sprained, possibly broken, ankle, so they assumed it was Quirk overuse. Let me see her, dearie. Izuku looked and saw Recovery Girl coming towards them. Crouching down, the woman looked her over. Poor thing, overused her Quirk. Why don't you help me take her back to the office? A little sleep and I can fix her. Right up. Okay. His tail swished slightly. He liked helping Recovery Girl. Good, now are you hurt? They tilted their head a bit before looking to the girl. Hands, but I can wait. All right, but your fathers and brother will be very angry if you lied. They chuckled a little and nodded, knowing full well how they all got when he was injured. Not that the other three weren't hypocrites. Once he was able to set her down, Recovery Girl shook her head at his hands. Those are pretty beat up. There were small cuts and bruises, not to mention what looked like small burns. How did you even do that? Wires. I keep telling those fools to tone it down. Dancing is a sport. Pinkie Pie. Oh, Izubabe. I didn't see you wink with a frown. Fluttershy. Folded hands, man running, blonde-haired woman health worker kiss mark. Pinkie Pie. Okay, I need a translation for that one. Discord. It says, sorry ran girl to Recovery Girl, so he had to take another exam into Recovery Girl. Pinkie Pie. Teach me the way, oh wise one. Discord. I seriously think only me and the fathers can understand anything they say. Pinkie Pie. Understandable, can we add Kiri here? I think he needs more friends, laughing face. Discord. Don't care. Fluttershy. Grinning face with big eyes, thumbs up. Pinkie Pie. Pinkie Pie added Kirishima Ijiro. Pinkie Pie changed Kirishima Ijiro's name to Applejack. Pinkie Pie. Welcome Kiri. At Discord is Hitoshi and at Fluttershy is Izuku. I will warn you they talk only in emojis. Applejack. Really? Love the dedication bro. Fluttershy. Pleading face, flushed face, beaming face with smiling eyes. Discord. If you ever need translations just ask me. Applejack. Thanks man. But how do you guys think you did? Pinkie Pie. I think I did amazing. Maybe not the best, but I hope I get in. I know I'll get in. Discord. My quirk isn't combat-based, so hoping for the best really. Fluttershy. Disappointed face, sad but relieved face, face without mouth, face with head bandage, woman dancing, man standing. Applejack. Might need a translation on that. Discord. He said, sad and nervous, those next two mean embarrassed and scared, then hurt, you got injured, and the last three just kinda mean he's here so might as well just dance or stand around. Applejack. Oh, I kinda get it, me to bro, also hope you're okay, sad face. Discord. Yeah, how'd you get hurt and how do dads not know yet? Fluttershy. Pinching hand, okay hand, woman health worker kiss mark. Pinkie Pie. I can translate. Pinkie Pie. You hurt your hands only a little but it's okay because Recovery Girl healed you. Fluttershy. Grinning face with big eyes, thumbs up. Applejack. Glad to hear you're all good bro. Hope the dads don't go to crazy LMAO. Discord. Screw the dads, I'm in your ifing walls. Izuku, why didn't you say anything earlier? Where are you? Pinkie Pie. Oop, protective brother mode. Fluttershy. Face without mouth, grinning face with sweat, face without mouth, fog. Discord. I will find you. They said they didn't think it was a big deal and they're hiding. Applejack. You guys are pretty lively. If you don't mind, what are your quirks? Pinkie Pie. If you know mine, so I'll put it just in case. I can create acid from my body. I can also control how corrosive it is, thank Izuku, and how much of it so I use it slide around and stuff. Discord. If I ask someone a question and they answer it, I can control them sorta. How else to describe it? Fluttershy. Animorphs. Discord. First words in the chat and it's you being a thing nerd. Fluttershy. Upside down face, starstruck middle finger. Applejack. Sorry bros, I have no idea what animorph means. Pinkie Pie. Don't sweat it. Izuku just likes that series a lot. Discord. They can turn into animals and stuff. Applejack. Bro. You guys have such cool quirks. Lot better than mine anyway. Fluttershy. Thinking face. Applejack. I can turn my skin hard. Discord. I don't think that's a quirk. Pinkie Pie. I'm so effing sad that we're friends because you say stuff like this and then I feel bad that Izuku has to live with you. Discord. You too. Fluttershy. I mouth eye. Fluttershy. Smiling face with hard eyes, starstruck raised fist, grinning face with big eyes, thumbs up. Applejack. Aw thanks bro. Dad. No. Dad, come on. Hitoshi, no. Papa. Nope. Seriously? The teen threw his hands up before huffing. I thought with us being your kids we were supposed to get nepotism or something. He turned to his sibling. You try asking them. Why? 'Cause you can do actually puppy eyes. Now try it on Papa. Dad's a heartless monster. The man in question glared at Hitoshi before looking to Hisashi. Zashi, you break, we're getting a divorce. I won't break. Izuku turned into a small wolf pup and jumped onto the counter, pretending to stumble before sitting in front of Hizashi. Oh no. Zashi. They began pawing at the table while letting out small whines. Zashi, for the love of God, you cannot be serious. Babe, this is really hard. Look how sad they are. Izuku then laid on the table and whined more. Baby. The blonde looked close to tears while his husband only stared in shock. Luckily for them, though, one of their phones began to ring, breaking the spell. Oh, thank God. It's Nedzu, Aizawa answered while Hizashi collected himself. Okay, right, we'll be there. He put his phone away before grabbing the keys. Nedzu needs all 4 of us at the school. Thank you all for coming and congratulations to you both for getting into the hero course. Hitoshi cheered before he was tackled by Izuku, both of them tumbling to the floor. Now the thing I need to talk about is your classes. I thought it wouldn't be a problem if I was their teacher. It isn't, but with how we usually separate the classes, it would be better to separate them. I was going to give them the choice of who went into 1A and who went into 1B. Aizawa sighed while Hizashi nodded along. It makes sense, Sho. You tend to get the more flashy, heroic quirks, and Vlad gets the more subtle stuff. Which is why I hate his guts. He sighed again. Alright, who would go with who though? Normally it would likely be Hitoshi going with Vlad just based off quirk, but with his aspirations and talents it would be logical for him to be in your class. With Izuku I don't see it matching. They have excellent control and understanding of their quirk and it can be used in every situation. So it is up to the boys then. The 3 looked over to see Hitoshi being lightly crushed by a tiger. Boys both perked up, getting off the ground. Which one of you wants to be with your dad and the other with Vlad King? Why not both? I apologize, but there is only 1 spot left in each class. With the different recommendation students and other quirks this year, that's how it panned out. Izuku looked between their brother and parents. In all honesty, he didn't want to be separated from either of them, too used to being surrounded by his family that just the thought of being alone freaked him out. That's fine, I'll go with Vlad King. Hitoshi shrugged a little, getting a weird look from Izuku. What? Like Principal Nedzu said, it's not like it matters who goes with who, plus I bet Dad would just find an excuse to transfer me. The white-haired teen smiled before hugging his brother tightly. Sounds like a plan then. Izuku will be in class 1A and Hitoshi will be in 1B. The 2 kids cheered again. Now Izuku, Hitoshi, why don't you 2 run around while I talk to your fathers about something? I think he forgets we're not 10 anymore. Hitoshi rolled his eyes but dragged his sibling out of the room. Why'd you kick the kids out? I wanted to inform you that we'll be getting a new heroics teacher. The 2 nodded slowly. It's All Might. What to do? Hitoshi looked around every corner as they walked. We could break into the teacher's lounge and bother Aunt Nem. Aunt Nem? Teacher's lounge it is, but you have to carry me. Izuku rolled their eyes before turning into horse and bowing slightly, letting Hitoshi get on and then running down the hall. They were halfway to the teacher's lounge when someone began shouting at them. Young man, how did you get a horse into the building? Izuku slowed down and trotted up slowly to the man. Well sir, I'm really good at magic. Want to see it turn into a rabbit? Izuku huffed and bucked the other off of him. Hey. Now young man. No need to yell at the poor animal, it's likely just stressed from being inside. The man carefully patted Izuku on the neck, who only stared down at Hitoshi, but he knew his brother was smirking. They're gonna be stressed in a second. The horse only huffed again though. Boys? All 3 looked over to see Midnight. What's going on over here? Hey Aunt Nem, this guy didn't like me having a horse inside and then Izuku bucked me off cause he's an a-hole. At his shouting, Izuku turned back to human and tackled the other, shocking the poor man. Don't worry, Midnight waved him off with a smile. That's Hitoshi and Izuku Emida. They're Aizawa and Yamada's kids. I see that. Should we stop them from fighting? No need, this time it was Aizawa boys. Both jumped before glaring. He started it. Izuku shouted. And I'm ending it. Hitoshi bit his brother's arm, getting a growl before his brother started biting him back. God damn it, Aizawa sighed and rubbed the bridge of his nose as Midnight and Hizashi started laughing. If you don't stop, I'm not letting Ishido and Kirishima come over this weekend. That got them both to stop fighting immediately. Now what did we say about fighting around strangers? Don't draw blood? Don't do it. Good job Izuku, and yes Hitoshi, though I would prefer you don't draw blood in general. Hey, he teamed up with the cats. It was only fair I got to claw and bite him too. Hisashi laughed as his husband lectured their kids. I promise they're both usually more well-behaved. Now don't go lying to him Hisashi, I've seen those kids dancing around fires in the woods. First of all Nem, you're the one who started the dancing, the woman only shrugged. Second of all, I'm trying to leave a good impression on Mr. Yagi here. It's quite all right, it's rather nice to see such lively children. Do they go here? They officially start this year actually. Oh, what classes did they decide? Izuku's with Sho and Hitoshi's with Vlad King. Poor Vlad won't know what hit him. Nope. Dancing is a sport. Pinkie Pie. 1A 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 let's F Gugu. Applejack. 1A 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 Raya. Discord. Well F me IGDMN. Pinkie Pie. Aw Toshi you know we love you. Applejack. Yeah Hito bro. You'll be the coolest in 1B for sure and we can hang for lunch. Discord. Almaoic I just like making you all feel guilt. Pinkie Pie. NVM I hate you again. Pinkie Pie. But where's Izuku? He usually hopes on with all his symbols and love. Discord. Tamaki and his friends wanted to celebrate so they're all hanging out, plus Izuku found something called a binturong and just keeps turning into that. Applejack. Bro did they not invite you? Discord. Nah they did, I'm hanging with them now but me and Tamaki needed a break so Izuku, Mirio, and Nijire are just being loud and running around. Pinkie Pie. It's so funny to me that you, Tamaki, and your dad are surrounded by the most outgoing people and always have the worst time. Discord. It's how it be. Izuku stood in their uniform hesitantly, while they didn't mind pants, since it was a uniform they needed to be fitting rather than the baggy they were used to. You ready? Hitoshi leaned against the doorway, staring at his brother's shift around. Don't like the pants? No. Knew that would happen. He left for a moment before coming back and tossing a bag to Izuku. That has the girl's uniform. Try that. It took a moment but when Izuku came back he seemed much happier. The skirt allowed his legs to move more freely and his tail to swish around. He had his hair pulled into a bun, the sleeves pushed up, and his foot wraps on. Now can we go? If we're late dads will kick our butt. Let's go. It didn't take long for the two to make it to the school, already seeing Mina and Kirishima at the gates. You guys made it. Oh my god Izuku. Mina looked them over. You look so cute. Why'd you go with a skirt though? Pants were too tight, couldn't move correctly. She nodded in understanding. Bro, won't they like yell at you for no shoes? They're foot wraps and they count as shoes, we checked. Oh cool. Super. Manly bro. Now men. Mina put her hands on her hips. We have 10 minutes before class starts. So what will we do? Go to class. What? No Hitoshi, she groaned. I meant like, what are we gonna do? Oh, kick butt. Kirishima shouted, getting a few strange looks, but the group didn't care. Kiri's got it. Now what are we gonna do? Kick butt. That's right boys. Now let's get in there and show 'em how it's done. Hitoshi rolled his eyes as he followed the three, all of them cheering enthusiastically as they went. Here's our class. All of them stopped in front of the door, Kirishima and Mina both looking starry-eyed at the door. We gotta go in with style, right? You ready, Izuku? I'm walking Hitoshi. Ah, okay, we'll meet you inside later then bro. Good luck man. Thanks, see you guys later. Izuku skipped next to their brother, humming quietly and letting out small growls every now and again. You didn't have to walk me is. Wanted to. Izuku only shrugged before stopping at the door. You'll do good, you belong in the hero course K? Hitoshi rolled his eyes but pulled his sibling into a hug. Thanks Izuku, I'll see you later. Bye. Hitoshi waved him off before opening the door and walking in, already seeing Vlad King sitting at the desk. Oh god I got you? Ah come on Vlad-sensei, you love me. Like ya a lot more with the other one running around. Hitoshi only rolled his eyes before finding his seat. You know him? Hitoshi turned to see a boy with a white and blue headband. I'm a ways by the way, nice to meet ya man. He offered the purple-haired teen a hand, who took it hesitantly. Amida Hitoshi, but just Hitoshi works and yeah, my dad's work here. Dude, that's so cool. The teen only shrugged a little. Hello, a girl with long orange hair walked up to his desk. My name's Kendo. Hitoshi. Pleasure. She greeted Aizawa as well before sitting in front of them. What are your quirks? Mine allows me to make my hands larger and stronger. Whoa. Mine lets me weld stuff together, like this. He touched his hand down to his desk before pointing to the floor, showing that it was now welded to the floor. Huh. They both turned to Hitoshi expectantly. Oh, if I ask someone a question I can mind control them. Aizawa let out a low whistle. That's pretty cool, dude. Can you mind control me? I want to know what it feels like. It would be better to do it during training. I believe class would start soon. The two boys agreed and began pulling their supplies out as other students started coming in. Hitoshi kept an eye on all of his classmates, making lists in his head about them. He did notice a few of them Izuku would probably get along with, even a few he was sure Kirishima and Mina would drag into their little group. When the bell went off, Vlad King gave them another moment before standing up. Welcome to Class 1B of the Hero course. I will be your teacher this year. I'm Pro Hero Vlad King. Everyone move your desks and then put your chairs in a circle. Izuku stared at the door for a moment before taking a deep breath and pushing it open. Remove your feet from that desk immediately. It's an insult to those who came before us and the craftsman who made the desk. Like I care. Izuku stared at the two for a moment. Looking at their body language and how they spoke showed two different sides to Izuku, but he mostly ignored them and looked around the room for Kirishima and Mina. Imeda. He turned back to them both, seeing the blue-haired boy approach. While I'm still concerned over your lack of shoes, you clearly saw through the exam. You were the better candidate. Izuku only tilted his head a little, noticing that the blonde boy was now glaring at him, but then someone else spoke. It's you. With the tail. They turned to see the girl they had taken to the nurse's office. I'm so glad you got in. Thank you so much for your help. No problem. They turned back to the room, about to speak to the blonde when the girl jumped. If you're here to make friends, then get out. They all looked to the door and saw Aizawa in his sleeping bag. Izuku couldn't help it and felt his tail swish back and forth as he smiled down at his father. This is the Hero course. He looked to the other students and saw Kirishima and Mina look at them both in shock before quickly getting the others to quiet down. It took you 8 seconds to quiet down. You all aren't very rational, are you? He stepped out of the sleeping bag. Time is a precious resource. He rolled his shoulders back and sighed. I'm Shoyuta Aizawa. I'll be your homeroom teacher. Now get your gym clothes and meet at the grounds. All of the students began getting up and heading out, Kirishima and Mina both grabbing onto Izuku. Izuku, you son of a beach. The white-haired teen only laughed. You didn't say our teacher would be your FNG dad. Sorry, they shrugged. Funny secret. They're right, it is pretty funny, Mina. Kirishima laid an arm across their shoulders. But dude, what was that girl talking about? Was she the one you helped? Izuku nodded. Dude, that's so manly. We better hurry and get changed though. I've seen how sad he gets when we're late. All three agreed and hurried to the locker rooms, Kirishima dragging Izuku over to the boys' locker room when someone stopped them. Dude, not that it really matters, I guess, but shouldn't she go with the other girls? Both of them turned to a blonde boy with a black lightning streak. I don't care. A shorter boy with ball for hair laughed. She can come in? First of all, dude, that's creepy. Kirishima glared at the shorter. And second of all, Izuku is a guy? He paused. Wait, unless you do want to change with the girls, but I think you'd have to ask first. This is fine. Izuku didn't wait for anyone else before pushing in and going to one of the lockers. See? Izuburo doesn't care. Kirishima followed in after him. While the white-haired teen changed, they failed to notice everyone staring at the scars that littered their body. Once they were finished, they turned to see everybody still looking, but they only smiled widely and left the locker room. Anyone kick up a fuss? Aizawa asked as soon as they made it outside. He tilted their head. He was not good. Which one? Aizawa had learned by now to trust the instincts of his kids, especially Izuku. Small and purple, acted weird. He hummed before stepping away as other students began coming out. Alright, we're going to go in a circle and say your names, quirks, and 2 fun facts about yourself. Hitoshi groaned, getting a few laughs. Keep talking, Amada, and I'll make you do an ORL presentation. The teen only shrugged as the teacher tossed a ball to Kendo. You'll start us off. Thank you, my name is Kendo Itsuka. My quirk is called Big Fist and it allows me to change the size of my hands. My fun facts. I'm really good at soccer but terrible at volleyball and I have a dog named Serby. She looked around the circle before tossing it to a blonde boy. My name's Monoma Nito. My quirk is called Copycat, which allows me to copy the quirk of anyone I touch. My best subject is English and I've been told I can get overzealous about school spirit. He hummed before smirking and tossing the ball at Hitoshi. Sup, my name's Amada Hitoshi, just Hitoshi works. My quirk is called brainwashing and it allows me to control people through asking a question. I have a sibling that also goes here and we have 2 cats that hate each other. They're named Mangy and BSRD. Language. It's my cat's name, Vampire Man. He looked around before deciding to toss it to a ways. Here. As he looked around the group again, he noticed the Monoma kid staring at him, though it was a little hard to tell if it was out of interest or annoyance. Hitoshi lifted a brow, only getting a slightly sinister smile. Izuku couldn't help but feel excited after Aizawa's statement. While the rest of his classmates were freaking out, he only growled quietly and let his tail swish around. Izuku, bro, your dad's just messing, right? Kirishima whispered, clearly trying not to draw attention. Yeah, he wouldn't actually expel anyone, right? Izuku only shrugged. Okay, so he will, great. While the 2 panicked, Izuku looked around at the others before meeting eyes with something. It looked like a large bird made of shadows, its body stretching from another student with a bird head that was trying to avoid looking at Izuku. The teen had no such qualms though, especially after meeting Mina. They skipped over to the bird, the creature tilting its head at them. I apologize for Dark Shadow, she seems to do as she pleases. Izuku let out a small huff. It's okay, he felt the urge to try and talk to the bird like he did in the forest, but he bit his tongue. She seems nice. Thank you. Izuku smiled and felt their tails swish faster as Dark Shadow responded. You and Puga next, he waved before. Walking over to the small track and crouching down, feeling his hands and feet change, go. He kicked off and ran, feeling Bakugu's explosions burn the air around them. The blonde glared at him when they finished, but Izuku only smiled. His body language reminded him of the peacocks he had seen at the zoo or the old alpha of the wolf pack he used to travel with. Flaunting power but signs of insecurity. The F, you lookin' at Zoo Fest? Izuku laughed a little before going back to Mina and Kirishima. The rest of the tests went by easy, Izuku passing most of them with flying colors. Izuku, Mina, and a girl named Tsu had all tied for flexibility. They got close to tying with another boy named Shoji, and had almost won against a girl named Yayorozu during the stamina test. Here are the rankings. They looked to the invisible girl and smiled. This was all a logical ruse. What? When the lunch bell rang, Hitoshi was a little surprised that Kendo and Awaze walked with him. He was even more surprised when Monoma and Testa joined. You, Lada Hitoshi, have piqued my interest, the blonde spoke with a hand to his head, and I have decided we are friends. The purple-haired teen felt like he was having flashbacks to when he met Mina. Okay? And like I said, just Hitoshi is fine, no one really uses that name anyway. It's your last name though? Yeah, but with my sibling and parents it doesn't really mean much. We're both Aimadas, but that's just a combination of our parents' names. What? Dude, I was totally gonna try and find out who your dads are. Good luck, unless you see them at my house you'll never know, and even then it's not likely, they both work a lot. And what about this sibling you speak of? Hitoshi lifted a brow at Monoma. He's in a different class. But not a different course, so he's in 1A. The way the blonde said it rubbed him the wrong way. Watch it, I got friends in there too. Well, there'll be no match when you become friends with me. Clearly 1B has the superior friends. I totally get what he meant when he said he has school spirit. More like egomaniac. Hey! He shoved Awaze, who only laughed. We should all sit together, Kendo offered. I think it's important to make strong friendships on the first day. Do we have to bring him? Hitoshi pointed to Monoma, who scoffed. Maybe we should ditch you. Nah man, I like Hitoshi. Aizawa said while laying an arm around the other. Sorry bro. Seriously? Hitoshi only smirked and nudged Monoma, trying to make it clear they was only teasing. Well, I guess it can't be helped. Let's get food and find a seat before they're all taken by wannabes. Kendo lightly hit the other before going to one of the lines. Once they had all gotten their food, they found a large table and all sat around, though the group noticed that Hitoshi sat on the edge and closer to an empty neighboring table. Why are you sitting there? My brother and friends wanted to sit together for lunch, so if they have more people than there's space. That's sweet, I can't wait to meet them. Whoa, the group looked to Aizawa, who was pointing. Who are they and why are they both hot? They all looked to where the other teen was pointing, seeing two people chatting as they walked around. Hitoshi felt like he was going to die, because he recognized the two immediately. Aizawa, I'm going to kill myself and you're going in my note. Jesus bro. Why? Testa asked. This is why. He stood up a little and waved his hand. Is Mina over here? The two waved back before jogging over. Guys, this is my sibling Izuku and our friend Mina. Hi. Mina practically bounced as she greeted them. Name's Mina Ishido. She slid into one of the seats, dragging Izuku down to one across from her. Kirishima should be over soon, same with some new friends we made. Did you both get food? Kendo asked, noticing neither had a tray. Kiri promised to grab mine while I looked for you. Izuku was gonna go with him, but this guy in our class felt bad about something, so he offered to grab Izuku's food. What happened? Mix up. Izuku patted his brother's head with a smile. All good, but he offered. So you're the famous sibling I've been hearing so much about. Monoma dragged a chair around, sitting between Hitoshi and Izuku. And what is your quirk exactly? Doubt it's better than Hitoshi's over here. What are you doing? I'm trying to hype you up, Hitoshi. It's what friends do. My man. Mina reached over and forced Monoma to shake her hand. I'm Iza's bestie, but tragically they come as a package deal. Hitoshi tried to flick food at her, but the girl only caught it, getting cheers from the others. Hito has a great quirk. Izuku felt their tail move quickly. What's yours? The blonde was caught off guard for a moment but smirked. I call it copycat. It allows me to copy someone's quirk with a touch. The white-haired teen practically lit up and offered their arm. Oh, what is your quirk? Monoma still touched their arm, seeming to think for a moment before his hand changed into claws. It's a shape-shifting kind. He can turn into animals, but the tail and horns are a fixed mutation. Hitoshi explained as he started eating. Interesting. Monoma looked to Aizawa and Hitoshi before smirking. You know, Izuku, I would love to test out some things with your quirk, if you're interested in training together, that is? Sure. Hitoshi pretended to GG while Mina started laughing uncontrollably. Dude, come on. What? Kendo said it was important to make friends. I'm simply listening to her. My queens. They all looked over to see Kirishima and Kaminari approaching, both holding 2 trays. We have brought the food. The redhead laughed as he handed Mina her food, taking the open seat next to her while Kaminari pretended to get on his knees and offer it to Izuku. Please accept my humblest apologies and offering. It's okay, Kaminari, thank you. Izuku took the tray with a smile before grabbing a chair. Why thank you? The blonde took the chair, sitting in it backwards before digging in. What was that about? Who knows? Dancing is a sport. Pinkie Pie, good morning my boys. Ready for another day. Applejack, rise and grind baby, let's go. Discord, if y'all I am tired. Pinkie Pie, get some coffee in ya baby, we still got school and it's officially the Seonk day. Fluttershy, people holding hands, grinning face. Discord, yeah I'm happy to hang out with my friends. Applejack, bro, why you got the finger quotes? Discord, I've known them for like a day and Monoma's annoying. Fluttershy. Discord, you can get along with him all you want, I still think he's annoying. Pinkie Pie, lucky for everyone then you can be just as annoying. Discord, you love it when I'm annoying. Pinkie Pie, yeah I do BB. Fluttershy, face vomiting, face vomiting, face vomiting, face vomiting, face vomiting, face vomiting. Discord. Can't believe my sibling doesn't support our love. Pinkie Pie. Our love is forbidden. Walking through the gates, Izuku ignored what the other three were talking about and looked around. He had still wanted to talk to the student with the shadow bird. He was pretty sure his name was Tokoyami. They spotted him pretty quickly and waved a quick goodbye before jogging over to him. I see our paths crossed again. Izuku nodded with a large smile, their tails swishing back and forth happily. Want to be friends? Tokoyami seemed surprised by the question but nodded. It would be wise to have an ally in these uncertain times. New friend. The shadow bird appeared and wrapped her arms around Izuku. Fumi, we have a new friend. Dark Shadow released them. But new friend. It's all right. Izuku patted the shadow on the head. Friendly. I am very friendly. Tokoyami sighed as Dark Shadow finally let go, returning back to the teen. I do apologize, she is not used to other people. Me neither, he gestured to himself. Some people think I'm scary. I have faced the same issues, though I assure you I do not feel that way towards you, my friend. Same walk to class? Yes, before we are late. As they walked, Tokoyami seemed to fill most of the silence, talking about a poem book he had recently gotten. Izuku added in their own opinions as well as what they thought Hisashi might have thought about it. Don't you two look buddy-buddy? Mina teased. My name's Mina Ashido, just Mina works. She offered her hand to Tokoyami, who took it cautiously. Tokoyami, please. He turned to Izuku. Your name is Ameda, correct? Izuku. Izuku then, I am pleased to call you a friend. What about me? I have just met you, Mina, but your personality shines obnoxiously bright. Oh, stop it, you, she shoved him playfully, getting an eye roll. Now let's sit down before Aizawa-sensei expels us. Even though Izuku was excited to learn and see his family, it felt like the day was dragging on. Not even Hisashi's exciting teaching style was enough to keep everyone focused. When lunchtime rolled around, Izuku went over to Tokoyami, who was talking with Shoji. Sit with us. I would be pleased if Shoji could join us. Izuku smiled at the taller teen. Of course. In the corner with 1B. We shall see you there then. Izubro, you comin'? They waved before jogging over to Mina, Kaminari, and Kirishima. Did you invite them? Yes. Tokoyami is new friend, hopefully Shoji. Dude. Kaminari wrapped an arm around Izuku's shoulders. Who wouldn't want to be friends with us? Think that Bakugu guy probably. Kirishima said as they sat at their lunch table. Peacock. All three looked at him confused before Mina gasped. You think he's just flaunting? Makes sense. Bet he's been told how amazing he is his entire life. The girl smirked evilly. Me and Hitoshi can knock him down a few pegs. Who are we knocking down? Can it be Monoma? Izuku huffed, already seeing the blonde's offended expression. How dare you? He turned to Izuku. Tell your brother to stop bullying me. Won't work. Izuku shrugged with a laugh. Bullies everyone, love language. So him bullying means we're friends then. No, it doesn't. Hitoshi argued, but both ignored him. Best friends. Don't feed into his delusions. I'll keep him down to earth, Kendo joked. The others wanted to make more friends, but I'll keep it to you guys for now. Speaking of friends, Izuku invited over Tokoyami and Shoji from our class, so keep these spots open. Mina demanded, waving to the open spots across from Izuku and Hitoshi. Ma'am, yes ma'am. Kaminari and Kirishima pretended to salute her before standing guard at the seats. Do I even want to know? The group looked over and saw Siro. Probably not. Mina pulled the chair next to her out before looking back to the others. Iz wasn't the only one who made a friend today. Sup guys, Siro Hanta, I shoot tape out of my elbows. What's it made of? Izuku asked, leaning forward a bit. I think it's kinda made of my bones. Tape bones. If we took your bones, would it just be tape rolls? I immediately regret saying I'd sit with you, Mina. Hopefully we won't. Kaminari and Kirishima moved as Tokoyami and Shoji walked up. My name's Shoji. I am Tokoyami and this is Dark Shadow. Hello. Monoma tilted his head at Tokoyami. I wonder what would happen if I used your quirk? Used my quirk? Mine's called Copycat. I can copy any quirk I touch for up to 3 minutes. Monoma waved his hand dismissively. Usually when I copy certain quirks I can get aspects of the user's body, only if it's useful to the quirk though. So that's why you didn't get horns or the tail like Izuku. It is unlikely you would have a bird head like mine. It is in my family's genetics to have animal, specifically avian, mutations. That's me with my horns. My mom's side has always had stuff like this. You should see my grandpa, he's got some wild ones. I am coming through the door like a normal person. Izuku jumped a little as the class broke into cheers. The thing was, Izuku knew who All Might was. He thought the man was an amazing hero, but he also didn't care that much beyond that. Hitoshi said it was because living with wolves made him uncultured. Aizawa then smacked the back of his head for that. Hero basic training. The class that'll put you through all sorts of special training to mold you into heroes. They covered their ears a little as the class got louder. No time to dilly-dally. Today we are battle training. And you can't do training without these. All Might pressed a button that revealed cases with their numbers on them, with your quirks and specific requests in mind. Soon enough everyone was rushing and grabbing their own cases. Here, Izuku saw Dark Shadow reach through the crowd, holding 3 cases. I shall grab ours and Koda's. Tokoyami handed the 3rd case to a teen next him who was signing his thanks. Izuku copied the gesture before following the group to the locker rooms. When Izuku opened their case they froze at the piece of metal sitting on top of their costume. They didn't need to pick it up to know it was a muzzle, something themselves and their family had said no to multiple times. Hey Izuku, what's dash? Kaminari came behind them, also freezing at the sight of the muzzle. Oh, that's mine. The blonde reached around and took the face where, yeah, they must have totally put it in the wrong case. And they made it wrong. Doesn't even fit me. Guess we'll have to throw it away. He tossed it into the bin before anyone stopped him. Thank you. Izuku nudged him with his horns before pulling out the rest of his costume, luckily not seeing anything else like the muzzle. Yeah man, no problem, after all they clearly messed up our costumes so I was just fixing a mistake. He rolled his eyes before starting to change, making sure each piece was secured before spinning a bit. Their costume had padded black foot wraps that went up to their thigh with extra protection on their knees, a black sleeveless bodysuit with shorts, black fingerless gloves that went to their biceps, and a white kimono with extra fabric to use as a hood and mask. Whoa, Mina let out a low whistle. That looks amazing, Izuku. Totally manly dude. Izuku was glad his friends were there to distract him from what happened in the changing rooms. How do I look? Kaminari did a pose with finger guns, getting a few laughs from the others. Good, like the jacket? Why thank you, Izuku, at least someone appreciates taste. The blonde pretended to flip his hair. Now that you are all ready, let's begin. Sensei, we appear to be in the same area as the entrance exam. Will we be expected to perform cityscape maneuvers? Nope. You'll be going on to step 2. Most of the class waited in anticipation, indoor anti-personnel battle training. Izuku zoned out for most of the explanation, instead looking around at their classmates. His eyes locked onto one of the girls. He was pretty sure her name was Yaoyorozu, but she looked uncomfortable. Not that he blamed her, her outfit looked strange, even if she needed skin-free for her quirk. Now for teams. Izuku turned back to the front, making a mental note to bring up the girl's costume when he went to visit his dad's. Team A will be Aimeda and Yaoyorozu. The girl turned to him and nodded. Team B is Shoji and Todoroki. Team C is Mineta and Azui. Team D is Ida and Tokoyami. Team E is Ishido and Aoyama. Team F is Koda and Sato. Team G is Kaminari and Jiro. Team H is Uraraka and Bakogu. Team I is Hagakure and Ojiro. And finally Team J will be Kirishima and Siro. Once he finished, the different pairs joined up and began chatting quietly. Izuku found Yaoyorozu again and walked over to her. Hello, Aimeda. We haven't gotten the chance to talk, but I am excited to work with you. She offered her hand with a small smile. My quirk allows me to create anything I know the makings of. Izuku, he shook her hand loosely before tilting his head. You're uncomfortable. You noticed. She lightly tugged at her clothes. While I was willing to let the creator have the reins, it seems to have not worked in my favor. They stared at her a little longer before taking their kimono off and draping it over her shoulders. Oh, I couldn't possibly dash. Return it after your costume is fixed. Of course, thank you Izuku, and please call me Yamamo. He nodded with a smile. Now that you've all talked, let's begin. All Might got their attention again. First matchup is Team A, Imeda and Yaoyorozu as the heroes against Team D, Tokoyami and Ida as the villains. What a mad banquet of darkness. Izuku looked to Tokoyami and tilted their head in question. Our first ever test, and I must fight against my ally. The horned teen let out a huff, trying not to laugh at their friend's dramatics. I look forward to our match. Yamamo said simply, waving as the villain team went into the designated building. Remember, you have 5 minutes to plan before you must go in. Good luck. All Might shouted before starting to usher the other students away. If you don't mind my asking, what is your quirk, Izuku? I saw during Aizawa-sensei's test that you were able to change parts of your body into animals. They nodded, feeling their tail flick behind them. Turn into animals. Fully body transformation is easiest. Are you limited on the amount of animals? Any animal I've ever seen can turn into dragon but cannot breath fire, can turn into any type of snake and use any venom though. Interesting, she held her chin in thought. Ida's quirk is engine, which allows him to have engines in his legs that make him quick, and Tokoyami can summon the bird Shadow. Named Dark Shadow, she is very nice. I see, they likely don't understand either of our quirks then, a sneak attack would be best. Izuku took a step back and sized up the building, feeling his eyes change into eagle eyes. Top floor. If they're on the top floor, then we'll need to find a way up there without being caught. Perhaps there are different stairwells? Izuku tapped her shoulder. Yes. Yamamo, any animal. She nodded slowly. I remember? Any animal. She stared before gasping. Could you get us to the roof and cave it in? The chaos will distract them and we'll be able to get to the bomb easily. They nodded happily, clapping a little. Heroes. Your time starts now. Yamamo sent a thumbs up to Izuku before the teens started changing. There were a few options they could choose from, but the easiest was to change into a large gorilla. They carefully picked Yamamo up before starting to climb the side of the building. We'll need to be quick, I have no doubt they've seen you climbing through the windows. There truly is no light in the darkness. Tokoyami put a hand over their face, even when it is shown it is so quick to be snuffed out by the darkness of real life. Ida nodded along. As villains, it is our job to make sure the light never lives long. We must keep the heroes away at all cost. To fight an ally so early is the path of villainy. One must snuff out one's own light before they go for another. You two sure are dramatic. Silence, Dark Shadow. We are mentally preparing for dash. Tokoyami cut himself off and blinked as he looked out the window. Was that a gorilla carrying Yaoyorozu? What? Ida raced over to the window. That must be Imada's quirk. I had assumed they could only turn parts into animals. Foolish of me to underestimate the heroes. How shall we prepare, O Dark One? They're going to the roof, we must move the bomb now. Tokoyami nodded and had Dark Shadow grab the bomb. Just as they did, the roof caved in, revealing Izuku and Yamamo standing in the wreckage. Surrender now, villains. She moved the kimono to pull a staff out of her stomach, or be forced to. We shall never surrender to the likes of you. Ida looked to Tokoyami. Take the bomb and run, I shall hold them off. Your death will be glorious. Tokoyami and Dark Shadow raced out of the room with Ida blocking the way. You want to outsmart us again, heroes. I will make sure you fail at every turn. Izuku crouched down before letting out a hiss. Plan. You'll have the best luck against Tokoyami. My quirk isn't made for that type of fighting, but we'll need to get Ida out first. They nodded before getting on all fours and turning into a wolf, letting out a growl as they began stalking forward. Attempts to escape this room will be denied. There is no way out. Just as he said that, Yamamo went around Izuku and tried to hit him with her staff. He was quick enough to dodge her but not quick enough to dodge the large snack that now wrapped around him. What? He tried to squirm out of it, but the large snake only coiled tighter. I have the capture tape. Yamamo tied one part around his legs, letting Izuku slowly unwrap as she taped him up. Eater is out. Good work, let's find the bomb. Izuku nodded and followed her out into the hall. As they took different turns and stairs, Yamamoto sighed. This place is like a maze. Can't have gone far. He changed into a cat, immediately feeling his ears twitch around before hearing a sound and racing towards it. Yamamoto caught on quickly and followed after him. Once they got to a closed door, Izuku paused and changed back, looking to the girl for an idea. Could you sneak in and subdue him? Then I can touch the bomb. They nodded and changed into a corn snake, slithering under the door and into the room. Our teammate has fallen, we must stay vigil. Dark shadow. Right. Izuku was almost at his feet when the Quirk looked down. He's here. She darted down, trying to capture the snake, but they slithered away and changed into a hawk. You will not win, heroes. They lead Tokoyami to the corner of the room, making sure he didn't see when Yamamoto snuck in. Heroes win. What? He whipped around to see Yamamoto with her hand on the bomb. I have been tricked, bamboozled even. Sorry. Izuku patted his shoulder with a laugh. Did good though. Thank you, my friend. You and Yaoyorozu were quite smart with your attacks. Thank you, Tokoyami. She smiled before covering her mouth. We should probably untie Ida though. Once you're done freeing your classmate, come to the observing room. You all did well, but who in the group is the MVP? All Might asked, looking between the class and the four standing at the front. It's gotta be Izuku, right? Dude was manly as hell. Kirishima offered. While he was definitely valuable, he dash. Yamamoto, Izuku pointed to her, came up with the plans and secured the bomb. Correct, young Ameda. You were a core part of her plans, but young Yaoyorozu was able to think quick and change based on the situation. The girl blushed at the praise as the class clapped. I would also like a round of applause for young Tokoyami and young Ida. Both boys committed to their roles and acted amazingly. Both boys blushed and bowed their heads. As the four went to join the other students, Izuku felt two pairs of eyes on him, both glaring. Looking around, he locked eyes with Bakugo and Todoroki, though it didn't last long as they both looked away and back towards the front. All right, Mina asked, seeming to notice his pause. All good. He wondered what the glares were about though. You're staying? Izuku nodded their head. Problem, need help from dads. Is it bad? Did something happen? Kirishima asked, looking a little worried. No, just small problem. Man. Well, we'll see you later then, right? We were gonna go over to your house and do homework. Mina explained. You made plans to go over to our house without telling us? You don't need to know everything I do, Hitoshi. God, you're so obsessed. Izuku and Kirishima laughed at the two's antics before Izuku gave them a quick goodbye and went back into the school. They had hoped to talk to their dads before school was over, but after the heroics class there hadn't been a chance to catch either of them or Namuri, so they were just going to wait for them to be finished in the teacher's lounge. Izuku, pleasure to see you. He turned to see Nedzu walking towards them. Are you waiting for your fathers? He nodded and turned into a small stout, climbing up the principal, and laying across his shoulders. Well then, let's not keep them waiting. The walk to the lounge was rather uneventful. They had only ran into a few straggling students who greeted Nedzu kindly, not noticing the extra animal with him. And how was everyone's second day? Nedzu asked as he threw the door open, seeming to startle most of the staff. There was even a skinny blonde man who spat out blood. Apologize, Mr. Yagi. And no problem at all. Aizawa rolled his eyes at the display and looked to the principal, spotting the small white stout immediately. What's up, kid? Didn't want to walk with your brother today? Izuku jumped off and changed back, immediately being tackled by Hizashi and Namuri. I missed my little cuddle bug. Namuri squeezed them tightly. I didn't get to hug you all day. My precious baby did so good in class today. Remind me to give Hitoshi a big hug when we get home too. Aizawa rolled his eyes again before using his capture weapon to pull the two away and drag Izuku over. What's up, kid? Now that Izuku was standing around his family, he was nervous. Not only did he want to bring up the clear lack of thought in some of the girls' hero costumes, but the disregard for his requests in his own. Did something happen? You won't be in trouble. Problem with hero costumes. Aizawa waited a moment, but Izuku didn't continue. It was clear they were stressed. their tail twitching sporadically and their hands fidgeting, but he had no clue as to why. "Ah, you noticed too, young Amada." The group turned to the blonde man from before. "I had noticed many of the girls in Class 1A seeming uncomfortable with the fitting of their costume. Even young Amada had gifted young Yaoyorozu part of his costume to help her feel more comfortable. I'll have a talk with the girls and the designers," Namuri offered. "They might feel more comfortable with a female hero and teacher to share their issues." "Excellent idea. Perhaps we can even give the support course children some new projects," Netsu added, looking to Power Loader, who nodded and made a note of it. "But that is not all." They looked back to Izuku, who fidgeted some more before nodding. "Problem with MI costume." He rocked on his heels before pointing to around his mouth, running his fingers over the old scars around his mouth. There was a done. It didn't take long before his parents seemed to realize what he was talking about. "Are you effing kidding me?" Aizawa's eyes flashed dangerously. He stood up and tried to leave, but Vlad King had grabbed him. "Vlad, let me go, or I swear to God I will break your arm." It seemed Namuri had followed Vlad's lead and grabbed Hisashi and covered his mouth so he couldn't use his quirk. "While this is highly concerning and I understand the anger, you tragically can't go attack the designers for ignoring a preference." Netsu turned to Izuku, who looked even more worried now. "Izuku, what was done with it?" Kaminari threw it away. "All right, I'll have someone go collect it so it can be taken care of properly. You two," he looked to Namuri and Vlad, "please make sure those two do not cause too much havoc while I deal with this." As soon as Netsu left, Izuku looked to his parents and hummed before transforming into a large tiger. He went to Aizawa first and sat in front of him, looking up sadly and nudging his balled-up fist. "Kid, I love you, but I'm gonna kill someone. We told them multiple times that that wasn't going to happen and they still made one." Izuku whined and pawed at his leg. "Your puppy eyes won't work on me, kid." He laid down and curled into his paws. "Damn it, Vlad let me down." The other teacher finally let Aizawa go, letting the underground hero pet and comfort his kid. "Thank you for telling us. Netsu will take care of it." He turned to Hisashi and activated his quirk, allowing Namuri to let him go. "Netsu's got it." "How dare they?" The blonde stomped his foot. "We told them. What happens if they did the same to Hitoshi or someone else? Are they ignoring obvious triggers? I mean, seriously." He grumbled and sat down next to the tiger, petting its soft fur rather aggressively. "I swear when I get my hands on that Diasner dash." "Hisashi." "Sorry to interrupt." They all turned to Yagi, who looked confused. "But I was unaware of the relation?" Aizawa sighed. "Right, you're new." Aizawa patted Izuku before standing up, letting his husband latch onto the tiger and grumble into the white fur. "Students Hitoshi Amada and Izu Amada are our sons. Me and Hisashi are married and Namuri is their aunt. I'm the best aunt." Izuku let out a small yip in agreement, getting most of the staff to coo. Before they started going here, they both spent a lot of time at the school with Netsu as their teacher. Izuku also assists another student in 3A with their quirk, and Hitoshi likes to terrorize people, so you might see them a lot. "Speaking of terrorize," Vlad spoke up, "for the love of God, can I give you your son? He's making my life hell." "It's the second day. Your kid works fast and he made friends with other terrors in my class. Your problem now," he turned back to Yagi. "The only other students that know of our relation to them is Mina Ishido and Eijiro Kirishima, though I doubt the secret will last much longer." "I see. Well, I think it's fantastic that your children also wish to be heroes. I haven't met the other young Amada yet, but I'm sure he shows great promise like this young Amada." Yagi seemed to stumble as he realized they had the same last names. "You can call them Izuku, they don't mind." "Of course. Dancing is a sport." Pinkie Pie has added 2 others. "Pinkie Pie, welcome new friends." Sirohanta, Ao? Kaminari Denki, who was the haps my bros. Discord, kill me. Sirohanta, DMN. But Pinkie Pie, real me too Pookie. Applejack, ignore them, they're sad that Isbro had to stay after to talk to the teachers. Discord, I need my emotional support animal shifter. Pinkie Pie, eyes not mean enough to help me make fun of Hitoshi. Applejack, Izuku is literally so nice though? Discord, that's what they want you to think. Pinkie Pie, They're baby but also a little sheet. Discord, it's how you know we're relate. Applejack, aren't you both adopted? Discord, how dare you? Kaminari Denki, can I be Spike? Pinkie Pie, you bet your butt. Discord, speaking of names, I'm changing mine to Maud Pie. Discord has changed their name to Maud Pie. Pinkie Pie has changed one name. Spike, yet. Maud Pie, thought about changing it to Fluttershy's brother, but I would never hit on a lesbian. Pinkie Pie, you'd never hit on a woman. Maud Pie, real and true bestie. Ciro Hanta, totally read the vibes wrong about you too. Pinkie Pie, we get that a lot. Maud Pie, we get that a lot. Ciro Hanta changed their name to Princess Cadence. Princess Cadence, need me a big strong man to throw me. Applejack, you understand me on a level I never thought possible. Spike, there was a reason I texted you though, Mina. Pinkie Pie, what's up, BB? Spike, so I didn't have Hitoshi's number, but while we were getting changed into our costume I noticed Izuku acting weird, right? So I popped over to see what was up, and there was a muzzle in their costume and I seemed freaked, so I just sorta threw it out. Wanted to know if they were okay though. Maud Pie, motherfucker, I will kill them. Pinkie Pie, seriously? Are you fing kidding me? Applejack, dude, that's f'd up. Princess Cadence, I feel left out of the loop, but I'ma go with that's a bad thing. Spike, yeah, I figured it was. Maud Pie, me and the parents told the designer people like 100 fing times to not have a mask of any kind like that. We decided on this like kimono type thing with fabric that would work as a hood and cover his face. Applejack, the fit looked sick, but he let Yayarosa borrow it cause she wasn't comfortable. Pinkie Pie, glad they didn't f up the bare minimum. Maud Pie, that's probably why he stayed back to talk with the teachers. I'm effing livid. Fluttershy, slightly smiling face, thumbs up. Maud Pie, I'm glad you're fine and it's fine now, but I'm losing it actively. Fluttershy, high voltage grinning face. Princess Cadence, what does that mean? Applejack, I got this. He's saying Kaminari helped. Spike, glad to be of service. Maud Pie, you've passed the vibe check. Maud Pie, also when are you coming home so we can smother you? Fluttershy, person running. Pinkie Pie, good, we will suffocate you with love. Princess Cadence, totally sending my love and support to dude love. Fluttershy, growing heart-hugging face. Alright, Aizawa gathered his papers as Hizashi bustled around the house. Nemuri will be talking with the girls later. Vlad King and All Might will be keeping an eye on Class 1B in case they have any problems. Nedzu's already fired the designer who ignored the requests, and we have 10 minutes to get to the school. Hizashi, have you seen my dash? Left it on the counter, honey. A pigeon flew over with a folder in its beak. Thanks, Izuku. Hitoshi, did you dash? Right here. Hitoshi came over and stuffed papers into his father's bag. We're meeting at the train stop again, by the way. He told Izuku, who crowed before flying to their room. Let's go. If we're late, Nem might poison the coffee. Hizashi kissed Hitoshi on the head. Love you, honey. Try not to kill Vlad later, okay? No promises. Didn't think so. He ruffled the teen's hair before tugging his shoes on. Izuku, don't let anyone mess with you without biting them. Stop telling Izuku to bite people. Aizawa tugged Hitoshi into a hug. If you bite someone, aim for the neck. Bye, dads, love you. Hitoshi shoved the two out the door before going to Izuku's room. Almost ready? Mina wanted to get smoothies before class. Ready? Smoothies were such a good idea, man. Nothing like starting the day healthy, bros. Kirishima cheered. I'm so glad they made coffee slushies. You're a freak. Hitoshi shoved Mina, who giggled. What is that? Izuku pointed to the school where a ton of people were standing. Did Dad say anything? Hitoshi pulled out his phone and shook his head. Guys, I think those are reporters. They are. The group turned to see Yamamoto standing there nervously. Sorry, I was waiting for Izuku to thank him again for his help yesterday, but when I got here it was surrounded by reporters. Apparently they're here to talk about All Might as our teacher. Yikes, Mina linked arms with Yamamoto and Izuku. Alright, Hitoshi, hi, you're going to be our guards like the big strong men you are. Sure. I got you, bros. Yamamoto didn't get a chance to argue as Mina started forward, pushing through the crowd. What's it like having All Might as a teacher? Is he good as a teacher? What are they teaching you? Are the other teachers competent? Alright, back up. You're bothering the students and interrupting classes. Hizashi shouted, pushing a few away as the 5 made it past the gates. Sorry, little listeners, we're working on it. It's quite alright, Present Mike-sensei, Yamamoto assured. Are there plans to disperse them? I said we should just arrest them, but Eraserhead said we can't. The hero shrugged. Nedzu's working on it though, just need an official reason. Now hurry to class. Alright, the principal is still working on the reporter issue, so I apologize for any interruptions. Aizawa stepped out of his sleeping bag, holding a stack of papers. I looked over your grades and analyzed your performances yesterday. Many of you did good, but Kogo, grow up already and stop wasting your talent. Ameda, it's good you listen to your partner, but don't rely heavily on others for a plan. Todoroki, you need to work on your teamwork, and Mineta, you need to respect your classmates. Aizawa passed the rest of the papers out. These have more notes, make sure to read them over. Suddenly he got serious. Now for the rest of the PRD, you'll be picking your class president. I'll do it. I want to be president. I'll take the position. Everyone control yourselves. We must dash. You're raising your hand too. I don't care how you do it, but do it quietly. You have until lunch. As soon as Aizawa slipped back into his sleeping bag, Ida spoke up. We should decide through voting. But won't people just vote for themselves? Exactly. If anyone gets more than 1 vote, then they're clearly worthy. The class was quick to agree, with Yamamoto handing out pieces of paper to write their votes on. We'll tally them up on the board. So that's what happened? Hitoshi asked, looking to his brother, who was covering their face. Izuku and Yamamoto got voted? I was more than happy to work as a class representative, but Izuku seems... Yamamoto trailed off. He's never been good in public, Hitoshi explained, but he'll be fine. Apologies if my vote has saddened you, friend. You seemed like the clearest option in my opinion. Tokoyami explained, with Dark Shadow nodding along. Same, my second choice was gonna be Yamamoto too. Kaminari added. I can do it. Izuku finally uncovered their face. Just didn't think. They made a slight growl sound. Didn't think people would want. They sighed. Voted for Yamamoto. Obvious to me. Me not so obvious. Well, thank you, Izuku. I think you'll do good though. Plus I will assist where I can. Thanks. Before they could continue, an alarm started to blare. What is that? What's happening? Security level 3 has been broken. All students please evacuate in an orderly fashion. Security level 3? Students started standing up and running, seeming to ignore the last part of the announcement. With all of the chaos, Izuku, Uraraka, and Ida were shoved against the glass. Izuku quickly shifted into a bird and flew up before turning back, turning his legs into tentacles to stick to the ceiling. He reached down and grabbed Ida and Uraraka, lifting them out of the chaos. It's the press! Ida shouted, trying to get everyone's attention, but no one listened. Uraraka, make me float. Okay. Ida, get me to the front of the group. They nodded and turned into a flying fox, using their wings to fly him to the front. Everyone. The security breach is just the press. Please calm down and evacuate in an orderly fashion. That seemed to get the group's attention as everyone started looking out the windows. He's right. How did that even happen? Is anyone hurt? Good, Ada, thank you for your help. Could you perhaps help me down? Izuku nodded and jumped down, turning into a large snake and helping Ida down. Thank you. Call me Izuku. Of course. Thank you for your assistance, Izuku and Uraraka. No problem. When they got back to the class, Izuku and Yamamoto went to the front of the class. We thank you for your votes. We will do our best to help the class. However, we would like to propose a third member. Yamamoto gestured to Ida. We think it would be helpful to add Ida to the representatives as the class safety coordinator. Do what you want. Welcome, Ida. Izuku cheered, clapping along with the class. Ooh, let's go Batman. Yeah, Batman. Guys. They're totally Batman, Robin, and Oracle. You're such a nerd. Class representatives. Yaoyorozu Momo added 2 others. Yaoyorozu Momo. Hello. I thought it would be a good idea to have a group chat so we can communicate easier. Ida Tenya, that is a fantastic idea. Ida Tenya, I also must thank you both for the opportunity. I will make you proud. Ada Izuku changed 3 names. Robin. Someone in class called us these. I thought it was fun. Smiley face. Robin. Also sorry, I don't text or talk much. Batman. That's quite alright. Oracle. Not to worry Izuku. Oracle. But I also made this chat because Aizawa-sensei informed me of a school trip. You're going in early? Hitoshi asked as he watched Izuku get around. Ida wants to talk about the trip with Dad. Just as they said that, Aizawa opened their door with a groan. Why does your safety coordinator have to be so proactive? Hitoshi laughed at their father while Izuku finished getting around. Seriously, I expected you and Yaoyorozu to keep track of the class, but to have Ida ask so many questions, why did Tensei's little brother have to be such a stickler? Dad, aren't you a bit of a stickler? You've literally kicked kids out for not following the dress code. No, I kicked them out because they weren't ready. The dress code was just an excuse. Hitoshi chuckled before flopping back onto the bed. Ready, kiddo? Yep. Ugh, I can't believe I'm being abandoned by my brother and father. If you want Hitoshi, Hisashi leaned against the doorway, you can come in with me. No, I already leave early to meet up with Mina. Well then don't complain then. The blonde shoved Hitoshi's shoulder. Have a good day and don't give Tensei's little brother too much hate. He's just excited and wants to be a good example. Gross, let's go. Izuku laughed before turning into a bunny and hopping onto Aizawa's shoulder. I apologize for making you come in early, Aizawa-sensei. Ida bowed to the man while Yamamo nodded along. I apologize as well, though I had to come in early anyway to confirm the changes to my costume and return Izuku's. Aizawa hummed, immediately going into his sleeping bag while Izuku hopped off and transformed back. Izuku, it's improper to use a teacher as a mode of transportation. I don't think Aizawa-sensei would allow it if he minded Ida. Yamamo teased a little. Also thank you again Izuku, it was very kind of you to allow me to use your kimono. No problem. He clapped his hands. Now about the class trip? Of course. Aizawa-sensei, may we have the information about the trip? The teacher sighed and reached a hand out, tossing Yamamo some papers. Thank you, sir. She flipped through them before going to the board and began writing, without him giving too much away. It seems like we'll be going off campus and using a bus, so perhaps we should have the 3 of us spread out around the bus to try and keep the chaos to a minimum. I agree. How should we have ourselves spread out? I don't mind sitting at the front. Izuku offered, maybe have Yamamo at the back? That would make sense, have the president and vice at the front and back and then our safety conductor in the middle. Great planning. Is there any other information? It doesn't appear so, a lot of it is blacked out. She hummed, whatever it is we'll have to listen to the teachers and make plans from there. I suggest we have our phones at the ready. Don't allow them to be a distraction, Aizawa warned. I expect you 3 to be models for the others. I assure you, sensei, we'll be the perfect students. We'll be good. Izuku ignored the pointed look Aizawa sent him. Homework. They asked the others. I have finished mine. What about you two? All done. I also finished mine. Perhaps if the others come in a little early we can check with them? Fantastic idea, Yaoyorozu. Perhaps we could also ask the others if they would like to study or work together to better our educations. Now for today's basic hero training. This time myself, All Might, and 1 other will supervise. What are we doing exactly? Shiro asked, not waiting for Aizawa to call on him. Rescue training, preparing you for disaster relief from fire to floods. Rescue, huh? Sounds like another rough day. Right? Come on. This is what being a hero is all about. I'm pumped. I'll be right at home in a flood ribbit. Hey, I'm not done. He clicked a button that revealed their hero suits again. It's up to each of you whether or not you wear your costumes. Some of them aren't suited for these situations. The place is remote, so we'll be going by bus. That's all. As everyone grabbed their cases, Dark Shadow passing him their case for him again, Ida began instructing them on proper bus etiquette and where they should sit, though it fell apart when the bus turned out to be set up differently. Yamamo. Your outfit looks so different. Uraraka pointed out with a smile. I love it. Instead of her old outfit, she now had a dress-like outfit with her back and stomach open and a utility belt with a large side bag for books. Why thank you, I much prefer this dress than my other outfit. You look a lot more comfortable too, I'm glad. As they all got into their spots, Izuku was a little surprised when Azui sat next to him. I usually say what's on my mind. They hummed and titled their head. Your quirk is rather interesting and powerful, isn't it? Really? And call me Izuku. Call me Tsu, and I really think so. I've seen you change your entire body and only body parts. Does your quirk have a limit? It does. Changing single body parts is more difficult than full changes. I can turn into a dragon, but I can't breath fire. Whoa, I had no idea, Izuku. That's a lot more useful than my hardening. Kirishima said with a slight frown. I think your quirk is more than enough, Kirishima. Thanks, man. Pro material for sure, but don't forget a hero also has to worry about popularity. My naval laser is strong and cool. Yeah, unless you blow up your stomach. If you want to talk about cool and strong, then that's Bokugu and Todoroki. Izuku noticed that the blonde tried to hide a smirk at Tsu's comment, but he's so unhinged he'll never be popular. What did you say, frog face? See? We've only just started socializing and already you've made it abundantly clear you have a garbage personality. Kaminari teased, making Bokugu angrier. Yeah, okay, Mr. Vocabulary, how about I pound you? What a vulgar conversation. I think it's fun. I don't think your vocabulary could get any fouler, Bokugu. We're here. Aizawa stood up, quickly silencing the class. Look sharp. Yes, sir. As they walked into the facility, the class all let out surprised sounds. Even though Izuku had been around UA a lot, he hadn't really been to the USJ often, only once or twice, and it was to help Tamaki with his quirk and adaptability. They idly listened as their classmates all asked questions about the facility, though they were curious about what the teachers meant when they said All Might wasn't coming. That is all. Thank you for listening. Izuku clapped along with his class before looking to Aizawa. Great, first off dash, as he began, Izuku suddenly felt his focus shift to the center. Huddle up and don't move. What's going on? What is that? 13. Protect the students. Is it more battle robots? Izuku felt his body shift lower to the ground, a small growl coming from his throat. Izuku? Don't move. Aizawa pulled his goggles down. Those are villains. As he said that, more and more people began to pour out of the strange portal in the middle. It's not only 13 and Eraserhead? A man with hands attached to him scratched at his neck. According to the schedule I received yesterday, All Might was supposed to be here. Of course the incident yesterday was caused by scum like you. Aizawa tugged his capture weapon, getting ready to fight. Ugh, where is he? After we brought all these playmates, the man tilted his head. Do you think some dead kids will get his attention? Aren't there sensors? How come they're not going off? Yamamo pulled out her phone. Phones aren't working either. Are they just here or the main building too? Todoroki looked around. If the sensors aren't working, then it must be one of their quirks stopping it. They may not be as dumb as they seem. It must be electrical based. Kaminari. See if you can use your quirk to signal for help. Yes, sir. Izuku quickly noticed that their father was planning to take on the villains himself. They got low to the ground and prepared to join him. Don't even think about it. He looked to Aizawa, who only shook his head. A good hero isn't a one-trick pony. 13. Take care of them. Then he flew down the stairs and into the crowd. It took everything in Izuku not to follow him. We must evacuate. Ida shouted. I won't allow it. The mist appeared in front of them. Greetings, we're the League of Villains. Forgive our audacity, but we have come here for a reason, to end the life of the symbol of peace, All Might. The group all tensed. Though it's disappointing he isn't here, no matter, my role remains unchanged. Izuku crouched down, ready to pounce, but Bokugu and Kirishima attacked first. The blonde used his quirk and blew the villains away while Kirishima hardened his quirk and knocked him back. Not if we end you first. Bet you didn't see that coming. That was awfully close. Even if you are students, you are the best of the best, aren't you? You two get away. Be gone.